Okay, let's call this meeting of the Indiana Board of Veterinary Medicine. Get things started here. First of all, I'd like to state that we do have a quorum established. All 7 members of the board are present. Under the agenda, we have a couple of quick changes to tell you. Under application review, Julie Yeager is no longer on the agenda for today. And under discussion, we also have the VTNE and NAVLE retakes and the proposed settle agreement new business. We're placing that up under discussion. Other than that, the agenda stands as presented to you. I would love to hear someone saying that they'd like to accept the agenda.
So moved.
Great, thank you. A second?
Second.
Thanks. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Great. Next would be the adoption of the minutes from our October 31st, 2024 meeting. I would like to ask if anybody has any corrections to those minutes after having looked at those. They should have been presented to you previously, I'm sure, had a chance to look at them. If not, I'd love to entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
I just had one quick question.
I'm sorry.
It's a
Go ahead.
procedural thing. It was at one point when the vote is taken, they used to
Do a roll call?
you say who voted what. We're almost always unanimous anyway.
I think
Well,
I
is
put
that-
all present.
Okay, is that, or, so
I mean,
if there was a dissenting vote, then that would.
then I'd
be-
go back and do a roll call at that point.
If there
But
was
that
a
would be in
dissent,
the minutes.
I would, if there was an objection or somebody abstained, I would put that on there.
Then that would go in,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Because so far we have, that is, all right.
I think previously there's been a time or two where you've abstained,
Yeah.
but I don't think it was last meeting, so.
It will be this meeting. It'll be one.
Okay.
Really one recusal.
We're still discussing the minutes from the October 31st meeting.
So barring that, I make a motion that we adopt the minutes.
A second.
Great. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Great, thank you very much. I see our court reporter is here. I am ready to swear you
Okay.
in if you're ready.
Yes.
Will the official reporter designated for the hearings please stand and be sworn? Raise your right hand, which you have done, and state your name.
Margie Addington.
Do you solemnly swear that you will keep complete and true notes of all that transpires in these hearings and prepare a complete transcript thereof from your notes, and faithfully perform all duties imposed upon you as an official reporter under the laws of the state of Indiana?
I do.
Thank you. Okay, we are at administrative hearings. Rachel, are you with us?
There she is.
Rachel, come on in.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you. How are you?
Doing well.
Wonderful. It's a big day for you.
It is. I'm
Yeah,
excited.
congratulations ahead of time, I think, maybe. All right, let's go ahead and get started. This is an administrative hearing being held on January 30th, 2025 at 1202 East 38th Street, Discovery Hall, Suite 100, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46205, and electronically through Microsoft Teams at 9:11 a.m. local time. This hearing is being conducted pursuant to the laws of the state of Indiana, found in Indiana Code 4-21.5, before 7 members of the Indiana Board of Veterinary Medicine in a cause docketed as administrative cause number 2022 VB 0006. The notice of time and place of this hearing was emailed to the respondent as provided by law on November 20th, 2024. The purpose of this hearing is to consider the petition to withdraw probation as requested by Rachel Bruner, RVT, on October 31st, 2024. My name is Jerry Rodenbarger, DVM, and I am serving as hearing officer for this board. The following members of the board are sitting with me on this hearing. Paul Clemente, DVM, Stephen Sunbury, DVM, John Schnarr, DVM, Kelly Peelman, DVM, Ashley Selke, registered veterinary technician, and Natalie, Goodwin, consumer member. At this time, I request that any board member who feels that he or she cannot give this individual a fair hearing and render an impartial decision to remove himself or herself from this hearing. Okay. You are not represented by counsel?
No.
Okay. You understand that you have the right to be represented by an attorney in this matter?
Yes.
You wish to proceed without an attorney present?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. Need to have you be sworn in as a witness in this case.
Okay.
Will all those who know themselves to be a witness or who may be witnesses in this cause, please stand and raise your right hand to be sworn. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Yes.
Excellent. Thank you. You be seated. The parties in this matter are hereby notified that the board will take official judicial notice of its file and record in this matter. All individuals attending this meeting are hereby placed on notice that this meeting is being recorded pursuant to Indiana law and will be a matter of public record. Would you like to make an opening statement?
I don't think so. Is there anything-
Tell us how you've been doing, what
Okay.
you've been doing.
All right. I've been doing well. No changes since I think last time I saw you was October 31st,
It was.
but that's a good thing. Employment's still the same, working at Eastside Animal Hospital in Evansville, full-time. Yeah, I can't think of anything else that's changed or that I need to update you on.
Okay. You haven't gone out and partied hard in the last week or anything?
No. I have not.
Okay, good girl, good girl. Any questions from the board to ask her? Her process has been exemplary, and it's been a pleasure watching her move forward in this process. So, anything else you want to tell us?
I don't think so, no.
Closing statement,
Thank you.
begging and groveling that we grant you? No?
Um,
Awesome. Okay. These proceedings, according to notice, are hereby concluded. This cause is therefore adjourned until further notice. Thank you very much. Okay, any commentary among the group before?
I think the original DUI was 2019, I believe.
Yeah, November.
Yeah, quite a while.
Yeah, so over 5 years.
For
Yeah.
5 years plus.
Yeah, we've got a really long-standing sobriety date, and everything's been wonderful.
So I'm ready to make a motion.
Why don't you do that for us, Paul?
I would make a motion that we terminate the probationary status of Ms. Bruner and give her full licensure as effective immediately.
I would like,
sorry.
I'll third it. You can say. Okay, I have a motion and a second on the floor. Let's roll call this. Paul Clemente,
Aye.
John Schnarr,
Aye.
Stephen Sunbury,
Aye.
Natalie Goodwin,
Aye.
Ashley Selke,
Aye.
Kelly Peelman, Congratulations.
Thank you all.
We will, don't take this the wrong way, we will miss you.
Right.
That'll come off your profile when we get the order, and clearance is usually pretty good about getting them the same day or the next day.
Oh,
So
awesome.
it'll be
Thank
quick.
you.
All right, bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dr. Meyer,
Yes.
we're ready to talk with you. Good morning.
Morning.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing well.
Good. It's good to hear. Excuse me just a second. Quiet that thing down. Sorry. Okay, this is an administrative hearing being held on January 30th, 2025 at 1202 East 38th Street, Discovery Hall, Suite 100, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46205, and electronically through Microsoft Teams at 9:18 a.m. local time. This hearing is being conducted pursuant to the laws of the state of Indiana found in Indiana Code 4-21.5 before 7 members of the Indiana Board of Veterinary Medicine in a cause docketed as administrative cause number 2024VB0007. The notice of time and place of this hearing was emailed to the respondent as provided by law on December 31st, 2024. The board scheduled this hearing on its own accord to consider whether the probationary status of the respondent's veterinary license should be withdrawn or modified. My name is Jerry Rodenbarger, and I am serving as hearing officer with this board. The following members of the board are sitting with me on this hearing: Paul Clemente, DVM, Stephen Sunbury, DVM, John Schneier, DVM, Kelly Peelman, DVM, Ashley Selke, registered veterinary technician, Natalie Goodwin, consumer member. At this time, I will request that any board member who feels that he or she cannot give this individual a fair hearing and render an impartial decision to remove himself or herself from this hearing. Do you have counsel?
Yeah.
Excuse me?
No.
Okay. And you do understand you have the right to be represented by an
Yes.
attorney? Okay. And you wish to proceed without one?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Would you stand, please, so that I can swear you in as a witness? And thank you. Will all those who know themselves to be a witness or who may be a witness in this cause stand and raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Be seated. The parties in this matter are hereby notified that the board will take official judicial notice of its file and record in this matter. All individuals attending this meeting are hereby placed on notice that this meeting is being recorded pursuant to Indiana law and will be a matter of public record. The purpose of this hearing is to consider whether the probationary status of the respondent's veterinary license should be withdrawn or modified. The board calls Brittany McMahon, Director of the Indiana Board of Veterinary Medicine.
Good morning.
Good morning. What is the status of the respondent's license?
Dr. Meyer's license has been on probation since January 31st of 2024. He self-reported an arrest for OBWI, operating while intoxicated, in October of 2023 on his renewal. And then he was convicted of that in the interim. And then in January of 2025, he appeared before the board. The order that the board issued required that Dr. Meyer's license be placed on probation and the terms were successful completion of criminal probation, which was scheduled to end approximately November 10th, 2024, submission of an initial therapist evaluation, quarterly therapist reports, quarterly employer reports on Dr. Meyer's performance, biannual personal appearances starting in July of 2024, and notification of any new criminal matters.
Thank you. Has the respondent complied with the board's order?
The board does not have the quarterly reports from a therapist or an initial report from a therapist. Instead, we received, when Dr. Meyer previously had counsel, we received one letter from his employer in April of 2024, which indicated that Dr. Meyer had not been working for that employer, at least, since January or early February of 2024. And then the therapist report that we got wasn't an evaluation or a report. It was actually a letter to Dr. Meyer indicating that the recommendation was inpatient treatment followed by an intensive outpatient therapy program, and that he required more intensive therapy than could be provided at that location. I don't know if he has come off of criminal probation, and I have not gotten any other reports from an employer.
And he was to let us know when he came off of criminal probation?
Yes.
Okay.
And he was also supposed to do the personal appearances, and every 6 months, and I don't have a record of him appearing in July.
Has the respondent's
This
license,
is my third time here.
you'll have plenty of a chance to chat with us, just I'm gonna let her finish up if that's okay. Has the respondent's license been previously disciplined?
Yes. In July of 2010, the board issued an order summarily suspending Dr. Meyer's license for being drunk at work at the VCA. And then thereafter, in October of 2010, he was placed on indefinite probation, requiring compliance with a 5-year monitoring agreement with the Veterinary Wellbeing Program. And then his license probation was ultimately terminated, withdrawn in December of 2012.
Okay. Anything else you would like to add at this point?
Yes, on October, I think about October 30th or October 31st, Dr. Meyer sent a self-report to the board indicating that he had not gone to therapy and that he was still maybe in treatment for something. I'm not really sure what that
I went
is.
through IOP. I've been through 5 therapists.
And he indicated that he would like to stay, that he hoped that the board would keep him on probation throughout the next quarter. And I replied, or I sent an additional email notifying him of a personal appearance in January. And then he emailed me back and seemed to be confused about whether he was on probation or not. I sent him a long email explaining the terms of his probation. I sent him the order of probation. And then Dr. Meyer kept emailing me very rude and semi-threatening emails and calling me a liar. And he seems to think that he did send information to the board. I don't have it. I asked him to resend it, and he essentially told me no, and that was my problem, not his.
Okay.
I mean, the last time I was here, we had all the paperwork.
Done for the moment?
That's all, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Meyer, go ahead and I would love if you would be willing to kind of give us an update on how things have been going for you beyond the letters that we've received, exactly what's happening with, I've got a minor back problem, and if you've got a major back problem, I can
I had
imagine
2
what,
broken discs
well, I was gonna say, I can imagine what that's like. So if you could kind of
and a
give us
subdural hematoma.
an update of all of that. Let us know how you're doing, what you're dealing with,
I
what
was
your
in a
battles
car
are.
crash.
I'm sorry?
I was in a car crash.
Okay,
My BEC was 0.
I'm sorry, my phone.
okay. And when actually was that?
December 27th,
Of
2004.
2004? You've been dealing with that a long time.
Yeah, the doctor said I'll be not well for a year.
Okay. That wasn't 24, that was 04? Is that what
No,
you're saying?
24.
Oh, 24, okay, all right. So fairly recently that has happened. And you have a couple of discs, is that correct? Is that what you said? Okay,
And 2 ribs and a scapula.
okay.
And the hematoma.
Has that resolved?
It was diagnosed, I guess, a month ago. And my GP, after the car crash, sent me to a neurologist. And he did a CT, that's when they found the broken discs. And then I had an MRI. And that's not a pleasant thing to go through. And that's when they found
The MRI?
hematoma. Yeah.
I had one 2 days ago. So they're very
Takes
uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. Mine was over an hour.
Yeah.
So I can certainly relate to that. How are things going with regard to your situation with alcohol?
I'm still drinking. Because if I don't drink, I have a seizure.
Okay. Are you on meds for your back?
No, they didn't give me anything.
Nothing. Okay. I'm not sure I
Sure,
could get out of bed without something for inflammation or pain, so. Okay.
It's just Advil.
Do you have copies of all of the reports that, for some reason, we don't have, but that you have said that you have sent to us? That, because I'm looking to try to resolve this if we can, but
No, my
we're
lawyer-
kind of handcuffed with our previous order, and we need those in our files. And apologies if somehow we lost them. I mean, I don't know. I'm not here filing or doing any of that. But at the same time, if somehow they did not get to us, is there the potential for those to be resent? Can you help us out with that?
I guess so. But
Well-
last time I was here, my lawyer gave everyone a copy.
And I'm trying to actually remember that because I would have been here. But the bottom line is, we had a transfer of directors. Director Turner had another opportunity. And so in that transition, it's just like when you hand off a football, that's when it's likely to be fumbled. And so certainly in the transition period, just to give you 100% benefit of the doubt, somehow maybe those were misplaced. And so I'm just trying to do what we can to see if we can get you back in proper perspective with your previous order. And getting all of those orders and communications, dot those I's and cross those T's, would be really beneficial. And I know it's an imposition, but if we could do that, that would be wonderfully helpful.
on my case, and it says his probation is from November 15th, 23 to November 10th, 2024, but I don't actually see any documentation.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Yes.
His probation is from
November 15th, 2023 to November 10th, 2024, but I don't actually see any documentation saying it's been terminated, other than that little note.
That's the criminal probation.
Yeah.
Which is another issue where we were wondering whether maybe there was a little bit of a confusion as to the two probations. There's the criminal probation, which we have no control over at all. And then the probation from the board here and the requirements associated with that probation. And was wondering if maybe we got those mixed up and thought that because the criminal probation came off when Clarence just indicated that you were under the impression that the probation with us was finished as well. Is that possible?
I think it's pretty likely.
Okay. Our probation can't come off until all of the requirements that were in the first order are met. And we then have a hearing like this and hopefully, just like the first administrative hearing, remove the probation for you. At this point, I'm assuming we're gonna need to get all those past documents, get things in order, or
Well, you
if,
lost them.
I just kind of went through that. I don't know that we lost them. I don't know that they weren't sent. I'm not saying you're lying and that you
No, they
didn't.
weren't handed out.
I acknowledge that. We can't find them. We don't have them. They're nowhere we can
That's a you
get.
problem. It's not a mine problem.
Regardless, we can't create them again. So if you have them, we need you to send them to us if you would be willing, because we're kind of at an impasse. We need that information. And apologies if we lost it, if we lost them.
No, you do lose them.
Well, I don't know that for sure, but regardless, let's say we did. We need them again. Can't apologize for asking you to do it anymore, but we need them again. Other comments from the board? Clarence?
Yeah, you mentioned you're retired. Are you planning on practicing again?
I'm kind of semi-retired because of my health. But yeah, I'd like to work again.
Okay. I was gonna say, one option, he could surrender his license, but he brought that up and he has to submit that by writing, but it sounds like he doesn't want to take
Well,
that. route.
assuming that you get better and you'd like to be able to work again, I could see how you would not want to do that. But for us to move forward and continue with your probation, either you will need to restart with therapy. You indicated that you are still drinking, and because of your injuries, I don't necessarily condone that. I mean, I've got a arrhythmia and I can't have any alcohol because of it at this point, and I used to socially get together with friends, and so I can't. So I understand that challenge a little bit, but that affects our concerns with regard to protection of the public. And in all good faith, we can't have you seeing patients if potentially you've been drinking. And so that's a concern, certainly, I would say. Would love to have you on prescription medications that can take care of your discomfort and help you to get through these injuries, and have you substitute those for alcohol. But all of the different things that are in your previous
My
order,
neurologist put me on naltrexone.
excuse me,
My neurologist put me on naltrexone.
okay? Paul, thoughts?
Dr. Meyer, there was a letter in April of '24 from a Rebecca Fryer who said she was going to recommend rehab for you. I think the question was a different county. Am I right about that? There was some confusion.
Yeah, I was fired from Shelby County.
Right. So she sent you information to get help in Hancock County, is that correct?
Yes,
And did you do that?
I did.
Okay.
And the person I saw was basically the leader of the practice. And she was supposed to refer me to a psychologist and a doctor,
Okay.
and she never did.
So did you have an actual evaluation in Hancock County from a therapist then? I guess that's what I'm getting at.
Well, I talked to her for a bit. I don't know if
Because
it was an actual evaluation.
Rebecca Fryer recommended you have inpatient detox followed by 28 days of outpatient rehab. Did you do any of that?
I did the detox,
Okay.
and then I went to IOP,
And IOP stands for what?
intensive
Intensive
outpatient.
outpatient through a particular rehab center or hospital that we can get that information from.
I think what I was told was because of HIPAA, they can't give that out.
We can't request that without issuing probably a subpoena, and even then, I don't know if that would work, but as the patient can get his own records.
Because what they're getting at is your probationary order from us for your veterinary license stipulates that we were supposed to get from you the report from your evaluation and from your outpatient therapy. And as far as I can tell, that
And you
was.
did get them.
What's that?
You did get them. You lost them.
All right, well, let's move on
Do
from
we know
that
what
point.
meeting those would have been provided at, out of curiosity? Do you remember which meeting that would have been provided at?
Last time I was here,
And do you know when that was?
The last time he was here was January 25th of 2024.
Okay. Because I'm just reading the order and I get that there's a lack of paperwork. I know we have these papers that were provided on April 30th from counsel of his, and that included some things that could probably have been construed as reports, but it didn't meet what we had asked for. So that might be the paperwork. I think that's potentially in question, or at least that's an opportunity for that. But regardless, the order states we need those quarterly, and I don't think we've received anything past that April 30th date. So I think that's kind of where the disconnect currently is on not being up to the order as it currently stands, and then not having a couple of the other boxes checked that we need to complete there.
Well, there's a letter from Dr. Meyer himself in October of 2024 that he indicated that he was currently not in any kind of therapy, if you read that letter. So, regardless of what may or may not have happened with paperwork, in October, you did send us a letter saying that you were not currently doing any rehab. That's the letter from you.
Well, that coupled with the April stumbling and stubbing our toe, so to speak, and kind of falling away from proper progress of improving, almost dictates a restart. I mean, so we kind of need to gather up and make a plan to try to help you get healthy, both with your back and with your alcohol, through potentially getting some help. That would require certainly new probationary orders, but keeping you on probation and keeping your license potentially.
yeah, I'm retired.
You're But you're wanting to maintain your license, right?
Yes,
In order to do that, it would need to be on probation with stipulations, I'm assuming. We haven't created an order yet, but we're just talking here.
I'll get the papers for you that you lost.
That would be extremely helpful. However, regardless, that paperwork's from prior to when we've had these issues. And so I hate to tell you, but we probably need to get back together once that's all been put together and put a long-term plan together for you, which I know you're not particularly pleased with having to come before us, but we're kind
Well,
of,
this has been very helpful.
excuse me,
This has been very helpful.
are you serious in saying that, or?
No, it's sarcasm.
I thought it was. I'm a sarcastic guy, and I thought I recognized that as sarcasm. So we're trying to help you.
Like I said, I've been through 4 therapists.
And the point of that is that they're not helping. You've given up on them. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what's,
Well, I don't live in Shelby County, so they kicked me out. And I went to Greenfield
and why did they do that, would you think?
because I wasn't a resident of the county.
How did you get accepted into 4 different counselors if you weren't
can't hear you.
allowed? How did you get accepted into 4 different counselors in that county if you weren't allowed to do that to begin with
Because at that time, they were taking people that didn't live in the county.
Okay.
And the first therapist quit on me because she was complaining about his drive from Indianapolis to Shelby County,
Okay.
which is kind of funny because
Well, that's his
when
prerogative,
when I
so,
worked, I drove from my house in Indianapolis to Ellisville, which is 65 miles. So
so,
then it was passed on to another one,
mhm.
and she quit. She got a better job somewhere else. And then it's passed on to another one. And that's the one that told me, we can't help you anymore because you don't live in the county. And that's when I went to Greenfield. And that person was the one that's supposed to refer me to the psychiatrist and therapist.
And then that office
That
hasn't
never happened.
responded to you. So, I guess
So my
my,
faith in the medical profession is pretty worn thin.
sure, but it seems like if your goal is to get well and your goal is to retain your license and eventually hopefully have that clear of any probation, then it seems like it would behoove you to continually nag that clinic or find another clinic to get you some help. Because your current situation, you clearly are unhappy. You're not being helped by the healthcare field right now. You're not meeting the probation. So the goals that you're wanting to achieve, the paperwork stuff aside, there's still intensive therapy that you need. And now you have medical complications from the accident, having to drink to not have seizures. That's a whole nother, I would imagine that would take a very specialized facility to help someone more than just the addiction, but your physiological responses to that too. You gotta realize that you're not just a clear-cut case here. And you're gonna need to advocate for yourself a little bit to push and find the right counseling that fits you so that you can get better. We're trying to help you through that.
Stepping back in 2010, when you had your previous issue, I think you participated in the well-being program. with the IVMA.
Yeah, that was a huge pain in the ass.
Well, Ann Kelly does a great job with lots of folks, and that would be, you would be accepted in that program, and that would be an area where you could potentially get the help to get back on track, I would think. They could set you up to get a new assessment done. Not taking any medication for your discomfort, truly not my business, but I'm just asking, do you have an organ issue? I mean, can your liver not tolerate those medications, or or is there some reason you can't take those medications
Yeah,
that you
like I
know
said,
of?
I'm on naltrexone to curb the cravings.
Right, but that's not going to do anything to help control your pain, right, with your back?
No.
Okay. Okay. Thoughts about moving forward?
I think the problem we have, in Dr. Meyer's own words in that October letter, you said, "I did not enter rehabilitation and must acknowledge I have not followed through." And that kind of ties our hands when, you said that to us in October. Because your probation stipulates that it's your responsibility to do those things in order to keep your veterinary license on probation. So I think everybody in the board can sympathize with your health issues. But, you did not fulfill the probationary requirements.
Dr. Meyer, you've been very forthcoming with a lot of information for us, and I appreciate that. Do you have anything else for the good of the board to help us that you would like to add at this point, or are you finished?
I think I've said everything that I need to say.
Okay, I just didn't want you feeling like you had to repeat yourself, and I think as well, you provided us with a lot of information, so I'm gonna indicate that then you rest with regard to that. Would you like to make just a short closing statement for the board, or are you comfortable with everything you've said so far?
I think we should go over bona fides. And what I mean by that is, we can skip high school, that doesn't matter.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
We can skip high school, that doesn't matter.
So you
I
want
was
to
in
go over bona
college.
fides, I'd just move on from that. I don't think that's relevant. You mentioned that in the email to Brittany.
Okay.
Like his qualifications. I think he just wants to argue with the board on qualifications.
Okay. It doesn't sound like there's anything else for the good of the order. I'm going to go ahead at this point then and close this hearing. These proceedings, according to notice, are hereby concluded. This cause is therefore adjourned until further notice. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Excuse me?
We're not done though.
Thanks for having me.
We have to now discuss, figure out, and vote on what to do for you, now that we've heard everything. I mean, I would recommend you stay so that you can hear what our decision is. Okay. I think it would be a good idea, I brought this up a little bit previously, and we were discussing this here in between, but I think the veterinary well-being program would be an excellent start for you again. It was successful for you, even though
I'm not gonna pee in a cup 3 times a week.
Do you have interest in stopping your alcohol dependence?
Yeah.
You'd like to stop, if you could. Is that Fair statement, that's true. Okay. I think to accomplish that, you're gonna have to jump through some hoops that are frustrating, that are a pain, that are very involved, because it's not an easy fix, as you know. I mean, it's very challenging. And so I think if you want to control your alcohol dependence, that is the best way for you to do that. And I don't think that's just my opinion. I think historically it has worked the best in what.
Yeah, I went through it once.
What's that?
I went through it once,
And how long were you good?
12 years.
That's a long time. That would probably get you through at least the end of when you were wanting to still work. And it would take you,
I'm 57.
okay. At 12, 13 more years, you're 70. I don't know that you'll still want to work when you're 70. Maybe you will, I don't know.
Shit, I don't want to work now.
You what?
I don't want to work now.
I thought you wanted to keep your license because you wanted to go back to work.
I want to keep my license if I do go back to work.
But even if you do go back to work, you don't want to go back to work. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much.
He could go, technically he could go on inactive status because he does have health problems that are preventing him from working right now. And then if he wanted to come back into practice, we would set a hearing on that and make sure that he is sober and healthy and could safely practice.
Are you following that? I mean, she wasn't addressing it specifically to you, but does that sound like something that you might want to do?
Going inactive?
Yeah, your license would be inactive at the moment. And if you got feeling better and were well enough that you wanted to go back into practice, contact us and we would set up a hearing to assess how you're doing and see if we can do that for you.
Would the potential benefit of that be essentially halting reporting requirements and appearances before the board during that time until it was desired to do so?
So what would happen if you want to go inactive, I'll put your license in inactive status, which means you cannot practice veterinary medicine while it's inactive. And then you would be due for renewal in October. You wouldn't have to renew. Your license would be inactive, expired. And then when you are ready to come back to work, you would let me know. I'd probably have you go ahead and fill out an application, a renewal application. And then you would appear before the board and determine.
I just renewed my license.
It would have been October of 2023 that you renewed. Renewals every 2 years. All DVMs are required to renew in October 15th, by October 15th, 2025.
Yeah, I did.
Not for 2025.
That hasn't come
No,
up
not
yet.
for 25.
Right.
It was 24.
Anyway, does that interest you? Or do you want to attempt to keep your license active now, at which point we're going to have you peeing in a cup?
I'd like to keep it active.
Would you be willing to restart the veterinary well-being program?
No.
I don't think we can have it both ways.
Is there a time limit on inactive status?
No.
No, I don't think there is.
They has to request that in writing, and it sounds like he doesn't want to. Another option, I think, would be suspension, and then the board could request that they suspend him 1 year. He enter the IVMA program, and then in a year, he can petition the board to come back onto probation if he shows evidence that he's entered that program and is doing well.
Can he be on suspension though? Because this is, he's on probation and the board can modify,
Yeah, I think we could.
but I don't know if I think it only says you can modify the probation, not necessarily add.
Yeah, I looked into that. I thought it was a little confusing. Another option would be to rule to show cause, and then we could
And
suspend
then
him.
you do an order to show cause.
Have actual probation violation hearing. So we could file.
If he's not acting, then tell him. You don't have to do it. Then he won't do it. He'll be in default for violation. And he'll just
Not to speak for you, but it seems to me that a short-term suspension of your license is less appealing to me if it were me than putting my license on inactive status. It's a better feel-good thing from my standpoint if it were me. We feel like we need you to participate in these programs, or we will have no choice but to consider you in default. And at that point, we would be suspending your license. So we're going to have some help on your side to get you healthy so that you can have an active license. Because at the moment, you don't qualify for an active license without probation.
Like I said, I'm retired. So it doesn't matter anyway. You've all been very helpful. Sorry, that took so long.
Brittany had a recommendation she wanted to give to the board.
It's not in writing, but it's on the record that he's retired, although he didn't say surrender. So I just move through, make the recommendation. We'll issue the order, send it to him.
To do all the things we have listed here and what we've been talking about.
If you want to make a motion on what I have there, then
Okay.
What I see, you went through 4 therapists. I think they tried to help him and he refused to do anything.
Similar to this.
Yeah. I don't know. If he wants to,
hold on. Sorry. Can we go back on the record,
Yeah.
Margie? Thank you. Absolutely. And just to make the record clear, during deliberations, Dr. Meyer has left. He indicated that he is retired. He did not outright ask to go in active status or to surrender his license. At this time, the board will continue deliberating on the record. Maybe he'll come back. If he doesn't, that's fine. We'll continue with the deliberation and recommendation and motion on the record. That way, if this were to go to litigation later, it's all on the record.
And so we are still on the record now.
We'll remain on the record until the
All
order's
right.
in.
For
So,
clarification, can we just then start at the very beginning, was the purpose for the hearing today? Was what?
Technical.
To request to come off of,
It was,
or because he has not been in compliance with the order?
because he has not been in compliance with the order.
And so we were able to have a conversation and establish that there was no evidence provided that he is in compliance with the order at this time.
Correct.
and he's unwilling to re-provide the evidence that he indicated that we'd received and lost.
So then our options today include,
Well, I would think.
Withdraw the probation or modify the probation?
okay,
And if we modify, isn't it pretty much to reiterate what we've already requested, meaning that he be part of the well-being program, that he have an addictionologist assess him, that he start having quarterly reports again and create a new probation for him. at this point.
Yeah, I'll just read off what my recommendation is, and then from there you guys can build on it or take things off, however, whoever wants to make a motion. I would recommend that he be enroll in the veterinary well-being program, follow all recommendations of the well-being program, and sign a monitoring agreement if that is recommended, and see an addictionologist and have an assessment, and provide all documentation from that addictionology assessment, and follow any and all recommendations by that assessment, and that he do those within 60 days from the date of the order. I don't know if he's ever going to provide the original documents from the therapist, so we can accept those if he does eventually get sober and healthy and he can provide those. If not, I don't necessarily think that he should be, penalized for that, as long as he does the well-being program and the new addictionology assessment. Otherwise, I would say that all other requirements from the January 31st, 2024 order B remain in effect. I would extend his probation 2 to 3 years, and I would require that he appear in April of 2025. I don't know if I said this, but I would require the veterinary well-being program contact and monitoring start, and the addictionology assessment all take place within 60 days of the order. And then he has to provide that documentation to us, either himself or, Ann Kelly at the well-being program or the addictionologist.
Can I just make a motion saying what she said?
So this, can I clarify real quick? This then, as Natalie suggested, would be a modification of his current probationary status.
Yes.
Which is either modify or remove probation was what the hearing was for in the first place. So modifying certainly falls under what our hearing indicated.
If we remove his probationary status, then where is he? as
Active
far
and
as-
unrestricted.
He's active and unrestricted. So at this point, we cannot put the license on indefinite suspension.
Correct.
We don't have the legal,
I think, I have the statute here, I think it's kind of debatable. But another option would be to do a rule to show cause and then just revoke his license or suspend him. And just
So-
have a formal probation violation hearing.
Yeah,
And
so if
some
we
of the
did it
board
this
members might
way,
prefer that.
if you modify today and he doesn't get the requirements, if he doesn't comply with anything, even in those 60 days, order to show cause can be issued. And at that time, he's in violation of the order, and suspension, revocation would be
An option.
options at that point.
so basically you would put a 60-day timeframe on us,
That's my recommendation.
which would take us to our
Next meeting.
April meeting.
And then if he does not fulfill any of the conditions of the modified probation, then at the April meeting, we have the option of indefinite suspension. Correct in that?
And I don't
I was looking at my
believe,
notes. Was that
Yes.
correct?
Yes, that's why I suggested 60 days
Okay.
instead of 90. You could do 30, 45 if you wanted to. I just don't know how long it takes to get into those programs.
hard to get everything done in that timeframe, I would think. So I don't think he's at risk to, a risk to the public in the next 60 days, because I doubt very much that he's going to be working anyway during that timeframe. So us basically giving him this last opportunity doesn't put the public at risk.
And then there was he was supposed to appear in person every 6 months. Could we, since it's such a different case, could we order appearance at every meeting, like every 3 months?
You could.
He's going to love that.
The thing with the veterinary well-being program, though, is that Ann Kelly will email me and let me know if there's a compliance issue ahead of time, so then an order to show cause could be filed timely to get a hearing notice out. You only meet quarterly anyway, so every other meeting.
Quite honestly, I think this is just giving him an opportunity and the benefit of the doubt, but the potential for him to follow through on this, I think, is extremely slight.
He's.
But at least we're doing it for him.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing.
So we don't have a record of him appearing before us since that order was issued in January of 2024.
That's correct. And I don't know why.
So he did not come to our July meeting.
That's correct. I also don't know if he was sent a notice or request to come to the July meeting.
If he was what?
He may not have been requested to come to the July meeting.
He wasn't on the agenda for that one.
He was not.
He was not, Tyler.
And I watched the July meeting and he wasn't there.
That's why I kind of think this is a reset button, and at least it gets,
Well, he obviously
Everything's
cannot
clear.
tell us at what meeting he handed us reports.
Which we can't keep
If
reports with us anyway.
his
so we do
lawyer
not have
had
them.
time
But I
handed
just
it
don't
out, I think
remember that.
we handed that stuff all back. I don't think they wanted us to keep it.
Whether it was his or not, in the past, anything like that, we always handed back in. So we did not take out of here.
Yeah,
personally.
I don't take anything on here.
It's not
it's almost
scanned
irrelevant,
into,
isn't it?
Well, I don't know how you
If it
want to
was.
do it.
so
What do you know?
he may have
Number one,
provided that
he-
information, I don't know.
He is an extremely sick individual, and I don't see, with him ignoring, he gets mad at, I swear he gets mad at therapists. They said they quit him. I believe they did. I think they said, you're not doing anything, I mean, my interpretation is, he even said, I don't want to pee in a cup every week. Well, I got news for you. You got problems, you're gonna have to. And I think we, give him a chance. I say give him a chance and then we'll come back and let's totally take his license away from him and be done with it.
Our job is to protect the public. It's also to protect veterinarians, protect him. And I think based on all the information, he needs help for himself. That letter, October 30th, 2024, at that point, he was still taking full responsibility and admitting that he was not doing what he was supposed to be doing. I hope the board will allow me to remain on probationary status until my next appearance and quarterly update. So he's talking about the updates, so he knows that he did comment then that he spent the last 3 months at home attending medical appointments. I did not enter rehabilitation and must acknowledge I have not yet followed through. We've talked about that he's taken all that responsibility. I know it's something I must do. Physically, I'm improved, however, I continue to have back pain.
Could you
I'm
slow
sorry,
down
too
just
fast.
on that last?
I'm reading off
Yeah.
of his letter a little bit, and he's acknowledging that he's not followed through. He says, I take responsibility for the delay and know it's something I must do. And then he says, physically, I am improved. However, I continue to have back pain when standing for longer periods, which I am told by my physician will gradually improve. That was October 30th, 2024, he mentioned that.
And he said his injury from the car accident was in December.
December of 2024. So, and then also with the license, he said he renewed this past year, and then we said 2025, he said, I already did that, and no, that hasn't come yet. Yeah, I did it 24. We didn't renew in 2024, we renewed in 2023. From that point
He
to
may
now,
have had
things
a
have
separately,
really
I mean,
changed.
with seizures and stuff,
Things have really changed.
he's got some serious issues.
Yeah. So, sorry.
I
to delay
agree.
things.
His communication changed drastically. And I don't know why. That's why we did this, because he's clearly in crisis of some sort. And he needs help, so
So I guess to that end, I feel like trying to give him one last chance so that we can try to help him by getting them into a program and whatnot. But I think we absolutely need these time constraints, 60 days, because as far as we know, he's not going to be working, but you never know what might happen.
I mean, the general concept we're talking through here is anybody against the process of creating these requirements for him, then I would recommend, I would exercise or entertain a motion to the effect of everything that our director has indicated here. If someone would like to do that, I think, can we just, it's on the record of what these things are, or do we need to read them all off? Let's get that done.
I don't know if it was technically on the record when I started reading those.
Dr. Peelman's gonna read it.
Okay, that would
so
be
that
great.
the
She's
court
such a good
reporter
reader.
can get it. She needs to make sure you can.
I move that we modify the probation requirements for Dr. Mayer to include the following points. He admits himself into the veterinary well-being program, fulfills the monitoring and all other recommendations within 60 days of the order, has an addictionology assessment and follows all the subsequent recommendations and reporting requirements. All the other requirements from January 31st, 2024, that order still stands. He must appear in April 2025's meeting and extend his probation for 3 years.
And would you like the addictionology assessment done in 60 days as well?
The addictionology assessment must also be completed within 60 days of the order.
We have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Great. Let's have a roll call. Paul Clemente,
Aye.
John Schneider,
Aye.
Stephen Sunbury,
Aye.
Natalie Goodwin,
Aye.
Ashley Selke,
Aye.
Kelly Peelman,
Aye.
and myself, Jerry Rodenbarger. Aye.
For my own clarification and just the 3-year, adding an additional 3 years, again, that is as an indefinite suspension, not able to ask to come off for at least 3 years. correct?
A minimum.
Minimum,
of
yeah, I always
3 years.
wait, I just always want to make sure that we, that this happens. Often we use that, and I think we're all supposed to remember that, but I just want to make sure.
And then we can go off the record? Yes. Yes. Thank you, Marky.
I'm pretty sure those April 30th
Um,
documents, when, because it's Rory's firm that was written, and the other attorney was here. And she provided those documents, which are not what we needed, but they were documents provided. I'm pretty sure.
But those are dated April of 24, and they were here in January of 24. So it's not the documents.
What? I know, but I think in his mind, he's thinking like, my attorney gave you guys documents.
I think
Those are the
I think maybe they did hand stuff out, but it wasn't necessarily those documents.
Then
or-
the full counsel was here today to help clarify that.
Well, they withdrew in July effective immediately.
Hey, Jerry. Thank you, please.
Can we take a break?
Okay. Going to take a short break. Okay, let's reconvene. We're going to adjust the agenda just a little bit and go ahead and receive our state veterinarian's report from Dr. Shipman.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. So at the State Board of Animal Health, as you likely have heard, our most recent focus and attention has been towards our highly pathogenic avian influenza response throughout the state. We currently have 7 cases throughout the state, primarily in the J. Adams County area on the Ohio line, but also an additional case in Jackson County, Shelby, as well as Allen. So as those cases confirm out of the National Veterinary Services Laboratory, they will be updated onto our website. If you would like to keep track of them there, that is where they're located. So with that, because it's on that Ohio line, we've been working really closely with the Ohio Department of Ag and the state veterinarian over there. While we have our 7 cases throughout Indiana, they're a little over 40 cases on the Ohio side in that same community. So it's really hitting Ohio really, really hard right now. So that's a piece that, just for awareness purposes, it's likely wild bird introduction. So to date, the genomics are the wild bird strain, if you will. We've not detected the dairy strain of this virus. So we just want to make that really clear that this is not the dairy strain that we're seeing. We both have the genetic sequencing on several of our cases to back that, as well as we are also testing dairies in that immediate area to ensure they do not have the virus either. So you might be aware that California most recently is kind of up against that dairy strain of highly pathogenic avian influenza in their dairy cattle, impacting over 800 dairies in California. Again, the primary clinical sign is decreased milk production in those cows. It has quite the affinity for mammary tissue, which is unique for a respiratory virus. That also then goes into, we've seen some, especially in California, but we can see it across the country, some feeding of unpasteurized milk to pets, specifically cats. And this virus is incredibly deadly to cats. They generally will present neurologic, and then they'll die pretty rapidly. So the key thing with that is, if that's on the rule out, is one, we need to be rolling out rabies as well with that presentation. But 2, because it's a pretty localized virus, so even a traditional influenza respiratory swab may not detect it if they are already neurologic. And generally that's going to be a sampling of the brain postmortem. So it is doing some peculiar things right now. Again, in our J County sites and the rest in the state, it's likely started from a wild bird introduction, and is circulating in that community right now. It's really, while the virus is really easy to inactivate, it's really hard to contain all the different moving pieces within a production system to ensure that the virus isn't moving within the production system. So that's just something that the producers and the companies in that area are incredibly aware of. We do have our site in Jackson County. That's a 2.8 million layer site. So quite a large endeavor there. That is actively undergoing composting, so it does take time. A lot of carbon is used to make those windrows. It'll be likely several miles of windrows of compost to inactivate that virus through that process. So that is where lots of our folks are putting a lot of our efforts, are cross-trained in. Our dairy folks are cross-trained into response as well, so that we can fully utilize our team. To that similar point, an issue that you might see on the horizon or hear about soon is we've had a lot of increased drone activity over our positive and negative farms in these areas. Likely neighbors, but we don't know. So we've been working really closely with FBI, the Federal Air Marshal, TSA, and FAA to better understand the drone laws in the state, as well as with the county officials, to then hopefully have some interactions with the pilots of those drones in this area. So I will make it clear, it is a felony to shoot down a drone, so please do not shoot down a drone. It is also, we also are advising people to not chase a drone, because folks have been chasing the drones to find where they are landing. So that is, you'll likely see some press reports or more information out about that. That's with that initial detection in early January. That is what our team has spent most of their time doing. Obviously, the General Assembly is currently in session, so we are continuing to monitor the bills. I think Brittany has sent around the bill for you all to kind of better understand, and for awareness purposes that that's in place. And so, we continue to monitor a whole host of bills from, canine blood banks to there's a farmed cervid bill that would potentially look at the genetic evaluation of the wild herd to others on our food safety side. So there's definitely plenty going on. And with that, if there's any questions specifically, I'd be happy to answer them.
The blood bank, that did get entered into a bill also?
I don't believe it's been scheduled
Okay. Right.
for a hearing, but it is out there. Yeah.
I know my brain. There was at 8:30 this morning, there was veterinary, the equine dentistry thing.
I think Gary Haynes is gonna give the legislative update later in the meeting,
For
or,
more detail.
yeah.
Okay.
So Kyle, is anybody recommending not feeding songbirds again like happened with West Nile? Is anybody making noises about that?
Not right now. The big conversation right now across the country, especially when it comes to bird flu, is around vaccine usage. So vaccine usage is a very hot topic in that space. Right now, it's not being used in dairy cattle because they don't have one, and it's not used in birds due to potential trade implications. So for many of our poultry species, their longevity prior to harvest is pretty short. So having getting immunity ramped up before it would be kind of effective is kind of a limited use, right? So a broiler, a meat chicken, or say a duck are generally 35 to 45 days old before they are harvested. So pretty limited amount of time. The egg laying industry definitely has some concerns because that's a longer period of time for them. Those birds are usually around 80 plus weeks in lay. And then turkeys are around 18 weeks prior to harvest. So you could have some potential use. Turkeys are generally the most susceptible is what we see. But the international trade and the export market would likely be immediately shut off if we implemented a vaccine strategy. That doesn't mean they're not considering it on the dairy side with the hope that it wouldn't impact the poultry side because it would be that separate species. Since cattle are definitely around longer in those herds, there could be a potential value to bringing that in and getting that implemented. But that's, there's the USDA is evaluating these vaccines right now and likely a year or two away from being able to implement that to get it through the regulatory process. The vaccine has been used in the United States in very restricted circumstances. So they have been able to vaccinate California condors. So endangered species they can give the vaccine to protect them. I believe there was a flock out west that had very, very specific genetics. I believe the feathers were used for fly fishing. So it was a very unique circumstance where they weren't generally considered in commercial trade for the production of their protein. So very confined circumstances, but right now, not. We've also had some conversations as far as, calls coming in about the fairs and exhibitions, right? Commingling events. Right now, that is not our intent to restrict that. What we are trying to do is free areas are unrestricted and are free. And the areas around known detections is where we take regulatory steps to ensure the virus isn't actively moving within or around those areas. We still want folks to consider good biosecurity. That is paramount to, if you can't prevent the introduction, we can at least mitigate the spread of it if it has been introduced. And so being mindful of footwear, designated footwear to care for your backyard poultry especially, is a huge piece that we're having folks consider.
So I still have to, when it's -5, fill these bird feeders for my wife? You're not helping me here.
If you need a different answer, we can work with DNR on that.
No, I'm just curious because there was a brief period of time in West Nile, they said, don't feed the birds.
Yeah.
I was good with that.
Yeah. And generally, we're primarily seeing this in our wild waterfowl. So it's really the ducks and geese. We have had a report, a DNR report of sandhill cranes in southern Indiana near Jackson County that were at least preliminary positive for the virus as well. So just working through those pieces. So wild waterfowl is, they can succumb to the virus. They will commonly not. They'll commonly live. It has it likes to, not sandhill cranes, snow geese are quite susceptible to this virus. So there's plenty of reports of snow geese coming in and migrating. They'll overnight somewhere, and when they go the next morning to continue on, I mean, the fields are just covered with ones that just couldn't take off in the morning. So they're quite susceptible to it.
So no sandhill cranes up there in Pulaski where the big viewing place is near Winnemac and all that?
I don't believe I have reports from there. They might be there, but maybe not succumbing to the virus, right?
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
In that county.
Yeah.
To go watch the sandhill cranes.
But I mean, some pretty odd behavior with the sandhill cranes. I mean, we've had callers come in where, you know, they're literally opening the door and there's a deceased sandhill crane on the front porch. So like some really peculiar behavior. I mean, right, that's an odd kind of circumstance. So, I mean, so we're working with Department of Health to mitigate the human health risk of that virus as well.
Well, congratulations on your appointment.
Thank you.
Hopefully everyone, there's a live one standing there. Hard to say. Anything else for the good doctor? Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Let's go back to the agenda as written. Our next administrative hearing is an administrative complaint. Dominique Whitaker, and we're checking to see if she is here. Good morning. This is an administrative hearing being held on January 30th, 2025 at 1202 East 38th Street, Discovery Hall, Suite 100, Indianapolis, Indiana 46205, and electronically through Microsoft Teams at 10:48 a.m. local time. This hearing is being conducted pursuant to the laws of the state of Indiana found in Indiana Code 4-21.5 before 7 members of the Indiana Board of Veterinary Medicine in a cause docketed as administrative cause number 2024 VB0015. The purpose of this hearing is to consider whether the board should issue an order commanding that the respondent cease and desist from unlicensed practice of veterinary medicine as alleged in the motion for order to cease and desist filed by the petitioner on September 24th, 2024. My name is Jerry Rodenbarger, and I am serving as the hearing officer for this board. The following members of the board are sitting with me on this hearing: Paul Clemente, DVM, Stephen Sunbury, DVM, John Schnarr, DVM, Kelly Peelman, DVM, Ashley Selke, registered veterinary technician, and Natalie Goodwin, consumer member. At this time, I will request that any board member who feels that he or she cannot give this individual a fair hearing and render an impartial decision to remove himself or herself from this hearing. Appearance of counsel, please.
Good afternoon, board. My name is Kara Rochester, Deputy Attorney General for the state.
Okay, thank you. For the swearing in of the witnesses, anyone who considers them to be a witness or who may be a witness is cause, please stand. Raise your right hand to be sworn. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated. The parties in this matter are hereby notified that the board will take official judicial notice of its file and record in this matter. All individuals attending this meeting are hereby placed on notice that this meeting is being recorded pursuant to Indiana law and will be a matter of public record. State may now present the case.
Thank you. First, we do need to consider respondent's notice of proposed default. She did respond to that notice that the board issued to her. However, she has not appeared in person today or by counsel. And so with that being said, the state does have, or the board, excuse me, does have the ability to hold her in default and allow the state to present its case without her. So the state would request that the board hold Dominique Whitaker in default.
Yeah, so somebody would make a motion.
Okay, this means that she cannot speak at the meeting. Do I need to explain that to the board?
Does everybody need an explanation of what default is? Anybody?
Okay. I would entertain a motion to hold our respondent in default.
So moved.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Let's go ahead and roll call that, please. Paul Clemente.
Aye.
John Schnarr.
Aye.
Stephen Sunbury.
Aye.
Natalie C. Goodwin.
Aye.
I'm sorry. Ashley Selke.
Aye.
Kelly Peelman.
Aye.
And myself, Jerry Rodenbarger. Aye. You want to proceed?
All right, thank you. Today, board, you will hear evidence that supports that respondent has been practicing veterinary medicine without a license. If it pleases the board, I'll move right into our first witness. Okay, thank you. The state calls Brittany Ulrey. Could you please state and spell your name?
Brittany Ulrey, Brittany Ulrey.
And what is your employer?
The Office of the Attorney General.
And what's your role there?
I'm an investigator.
What do you do?
I investigate consumer complaints that are filed against licensed and sometimes unlicensed individuals.
Are you familiar with the respondent?
I am.
How are you familiar with her?
I investigated the consumer complaint that was filed against her.
And can you describe what that investigation looked like? What did you do?
And initially, just right off the bat, it was an investigation into potentially unlicensed practice on Mrs. Whitaker's behalf.
Did you find any documents during your investigation?
I did. I have received a copy of the consumer complaint, a copy of the respondent's response. I received several Facebook screenshot posts from Facebook, and then I also took screenshots of the respondent's webpage for her business.
I'm going to hand you what's been labeled as State's Exhibit 1. Have you seen this document before?
Yes.
And what is it?
This is the set of screenshots from Ms. Whitaker's webpage.
And when was this screenshot taken?
June 13th of 2024.
Is this a true and accurate copy of the screenshot you took on June 13th, 2024?
Yes.
Same as to admit Exhibit 1.
Okay. Accept it.
If you want to.
Sure, I do.
I think that should be in. Is there a SharePoint?
We have
Board?
that.
Okay.
We haven't.
All right, thank you. Investigator Ulrey, what is respondent's business?
So she owns, the business name is The Ridge Homestead. She essentially has a farm where I'm assuming she's doing homesteady type things. But one of the services as part of her homestead is offering avian services, general avian services.
Okay, and let's kind of get into more detail about that. If you could look on page 7 is where it starts. Could you describe what avian services Ms. Whitaker provides?
Yes, she does an emergency avian service, about 2 hours long, an avian consult, which is about an hour long, sick avian visit, which is about an hour long, and yeah, those are the 3.
And does the website give a description as to what each of those services entails?
Yes, a very brief description. For example, for the emergency avian service, it offers immediate assistance for sick or injured birds on farms. Our professional team provides expert care to ensure the health, and then it kind of cuts off, but I'm assuming you guys get the point there.
And also the sick avian visit, what does she describe that as on her website? That would be on page 12.
Yes. Our sick avian service provides expert care for your poultry, ensuring prompt diagnosis and treatment to maintain health and productivity of your flock.
And I'd like to refer you, you can put that aside, to what's been labeled as State's Exhibit 2. Do you recognize this document?
Yes.
And how do you recognize it?
This is the Facebook screenshot that was submitted with the complaint that we received.
And is this a true and accurate copy of the screenshot that you received?
Yes.
And who did you receive it from?
From the complainant directly when she filed the complaint.
State moves to admit Exhibit 2.
Okay.
And what is a summary of this post that you could provide the board?
So it seems like she had just moved to the Brown County area and was kind of introducing herself. I'm sure most of us know like the Facebook chatter pages, kind of introducing herself, who she is, what she does, what she could offer for the community. She introduces herself, where she's from. She goes on to say that she has a homestead. She's an avian specialist with a focus in livestock poultry. I offer many services, including emergency avian services, vaccinations, and testing. And she tells everyone on the post that she's certified through Texas A&M for pylorium typhoid testing and facilitation of treatment.
And you can put that aside. I'm going to hand you what's been labeled as State's Exhibit 3. Sorry. Do you recognize that?
I do.
And what is it?
This is the response that Ms. Whitaker emailed directly to me.
And is this a true and accurate copy of that email?
Yes.
State moves to admit Exhibit 3.
Hi.
What does respondent admit to being an expert, an avian expert in this email?
Yes.
And does she state that she has more on-the-job training than most veterinarians would or ever will have while dealing with livestock poultry?
Yes.
And does she state that she provides veterinary advice, or let me rephrase, does she state that she provides advice on how to treat poultry in the event they can't get to a close veterinarian?
Yes.
Going to hand you finally what's been labeled as State's Exhibit 4. Do you recognize that document?
I do.
And what is it?
This is a second Facebook post that was screenshotted and sent to me by the complainant. It was posted, if my memory is correct, I think June 20th of 2024. So I took the screenshots of her website on June 13th. Between June 13th and June 20th, she submitted her response to me. She also submitted her response to me via that Facebook chatter page as well. Essentially letting everybody know that she wasn't going to provide any avian services or consults due to the allegations that were made against her, and then includes a copy of that response that she had emailed me for the followers to read.
Thank you. The state moves to admit Exhibit 4.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Brittany, I don't have any further questions for you, but the board may.
Questions from the board?
Did I see that after the investigation started, she changed her webpage to remove the section that said price to be determined? Because she maintained that she would never charge a fee and act like a veterinarian. But her original webpage, she had avian consultation and it said price varies.
From the day I received this case, I try my best when I first get a case to go in and get the screenshots I need. Because as soon as they get this email from me that they're under investigation, well, I gotta go change things. So that same day I received the case, I sent the email and I took my screenshots. And as of that day, she was telling you how much she was going to charge you for the services she was going to provide.
And then it changed, the website changed to say price varies. Is that correct?
Yes, on one of the services, I think, if I'm remembering correctly.
And it looked like she even dropped 2 of the services from her webpage
Yes,
after the investigation started.
yes. One of them is still there.
Yes.
But she's still claiming to diagnose and treat.
After she got investigated, she tried to backpedal a little bit.
Are you looking at the email that she sent to me
Well,
where she has some screenshots in there?
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it was the consultation and the sick avian visits were removed. I think she changed things, I guess is what I'm saying, from the time the investigation started.
Any other questions for our witness?
Any other witnesses?
I have no further witnesses, just a brief closing.
And I am ready for your closing statement.
Thank you. Board responding herself admits that she is not a licensed veterinarian. The state has presented evidence to show that she is treating and diagnosing the avian population, and I don't need to read to you the definition of the practice of veterinary medicine. The state believes that she is doing that without a license, and therefore requests that this board issue her a cease and desist. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. These proceedings, according to notice, are hereby concluded. This cause is therefore adjourned until further notice. Thank you for coming. Okay. Looks pretty straightforward, at least to me. I would be happy to entertain a motion to cease and desist.
So move.
Second?
I'll second it.
Excellent. Let's have a roll call, please. Paul Clemente,
Aye.
John Schneer,
Aye.
Stephen Sunbury,
Aye.
Natalie C. Goodwin,
Aye.
Ashley Selke,
Hi.
Kelly Peelman,
Aye.
and myself, Jerry Rodenberger. Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your work.
So what happened?
Thank you.
Still my grievances? Okay.
She'll get a letter of cease and desist.
Yeah, an order of cease and desist. They sent her an email. I don't even know if she lives here anymore.
Do what?
I don't even know if she's living in Indiana anymore. Because her email said she goes back and forth to Arkansas or something. Arkansas or Texas.
Oh, yeah, because she doesn't check it out.
And is Dr. Michael Hohenstein here?
I believe his attorney is here.
Lori, is your respondent not here?
No. Do you want them to come? They've historically not attended.
No,
Okay.
just sometimes they're here.
I always tell them that they're welcome to come and it's open to the public if they want to, but I don't encourage them to come.
Okay. This is an administrative hearing being held on January 30th, 2025 at 1202 East 38th Street, Discovery Hall, Suite 100, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46205, and electronically through Microsoft Teams at 11:04 a.m. local time. This hearing is being conducted pursuant to the laws of the state of Indiana found in Indiana Code 4-21.5 before 7 members of the Indiana Board of Veterinary Medicine in a cause docketed as administrative cause number 2024 VB0011. The notice of time and place of this hearing was emailed to the respondent through his attorney as provided by law on December 30th, 2024. The purpose of this hearing is to consider the proposed settlement agreement filed on December 30th, 2024. My name is Jerry Rodenbarger, DVM, and I am serving as the hearing officer for this board. The following members of the board are sitting with me on this hearing: Paul Clemente, DVM, Steve Sunbury, DVM, John Schnarr, DVM, Kelly Peelman, DVM, Ashley Selke, registered veterinary technician, and Natalie Goodwin, consumer member. At this time, I will request that any board member who feels that he or she cannot give this individual a fair hearing and render an impartial decision to remove himself or herself from this hearing.
Rory, do you want me to recuse since I was involved in the?
I don't think that's necessary at all, Dr. Clemente.
Appearance of counsel?
Kara Rochester for the state.
And Rory Goldman for Dr. Hohenstein responded.
Thank you. Do we have any witnesses?
No.
Didn't think so. All individuals attending this meeting are hereby placed on notice that this meeting is being recorded pursuant to Indiana law and will be a matter of public record. You may now present the proposed settlement agreement.
Thank you. The parties have entered into a settlement agreement. I won't go through the details unless you have any specific questions or requests to, but the parties have stipulated to a letter of reprimand, which is included in the agreement. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'm sure Ms. Goldman is as well.
Okay. Could you explain that to me?
It means that they're only allowed to, if you have questions, they're only allowed to answer based off of what is contained in the actual agreement. So if you have a question and the answer is not specifically outlined, specifically stated in the agreement, then they will tell you that they can't answer that question. I don't think, Ms. Goldman, do you have anything else to present?
Beyond the settlement agreement? No.
Are you going to present the highlights of the settlement agreement to us? Not necessarily, we have it in front of us, we've seen it.
I can do a brief summary.
Why don't you do that, please?
If you would like me to.
I would love to
okay?
hear you summarize.
Okay. This case involved a spay procedure of a Great Dane. The Great Dane was discharged the day after the spay, and the day after that, so 2 days after the spay, the dog passed away. A necropsy was done, and the part of the necropsy is quoted in the settlement agreement, and the issue pertained to the manner in which the sutures were used and whether or not a circumferential suture ligature was used, or, and I'm going to forget the name, I want to say transfix suture. Did I have that right? Okay.
Yes.
And whether or not a transfix suture was used. The parties had a settlement conference in which Dr. Clemente was present, and there was a discussion about closures and changes that had been made as a result of this case by Dr. Hohenstein. A discussion ensued about some hours of continuing education that were specifically geared towards abdominal surgery. Those courses are set forth in the settlement agreement. They were presented with descriptions of them, trying to get to the issue at heart, which was the manner in which the ligature was placed. And those hours were completed, and as a result of that, the parties agreed to settlement on, subject to your approval, on a term of a written letter of reprimand.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Either party make a closing statement of any kind?
State is no, nothing further.
Okay,
Nothing.
you're good? Okay. These proceedings, according to notice, are hereby concluded. This cause is therefore adjourned until further notice. Thank you very much. Okay. 3/0 suture on a 100-pound Great Dane, give or take, or whatever it was. I can't pull the suture tight enough with 3/0 without it snapping it. So anyway, Paul, can you give us some background on how the discussion about 0 versus 2/0 versus 3/0 suture?
Dr. Hohenstein was very apologetic, if you want to, I don't know if I want to use the term apologetic, but he did state that he has lots of experience, done thousands of spays, and he admitted that he kind of dropped the ball on this one because each ovarian pedicle had just one circumferential, one cerclage ligature, and on the uterine body there were 2, but they were kind of like on each horn, and they were loose, and the right ovarian was loose, and there was like 2.5 liters of blood on the necropsy in the abdomen.
Right.
So Dr. Hohenstein agreed that, kind of dropped the ball on this, but, admitted to changing how he was going to do large dog spays in the future.
I mean, the things I noticed were, 1, he's been around a while.
Right.
2, big dog. And 3, really fine suture. I was just shocked. I mean, is that what he normally had used up to this point and got away with it? Or, I mean,
He more or
that
less,
surprises me.
yeah, he more or less was admitting to the fact that he kind of dropped the ball on this spay, not transfixing and using different suture. And so from continuing education standpoint, Rory would send me things to see if I would agree they would fulfill what we wanted them to. It is not easy to find a CE program on how to do a spay. It just isn't, anything specific. So the 6 hours of CE he did was mostly surgery in general, and specifically abdominal surgery. Rory, if I'm correct, didn't he reimburse the owner for part of an emergency clinic bill? I may be wrong on that, but I think the dog did go to a
Well, it went to
emergency.
Purdue. Oh, you mean before it went to Purdue?
Yeah, I
for
think so.
non-toxic?
And I
Okay.
thought there was some kind of reimbursement.
Okay. Well, I don't have an issue at all with what's been settled here and how that's going. I just was curious about the issues I brought up. And so,
So Paul, your impression from talking with him was that he was going to make changes.
This isn't going to happen again. It wasn't,
Bigger suture,
there wasn't,
transfixation.
yeah, there was no,
Double ligatures, probably on
there was
something that
no
big.
argument. It was not argumentative in the slightest. That, he was not defending what happened in this case. And, I didn't go into details as to why, but he was very forthcoming in saying, won't happen again. And was very concerned that it did happen, obviously. In other words, his approach was not cavalier at all. And I didn't feel like we needed a full board hearing on it.
thank you, Paul. Any other comments or thoughts? If not, I would entertain a motion to accept the settlement agreement. John?
So moved.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Appreciate it. Let's have a little roll call, shall we? Paul Clemente.
Aye.
John Schnare.
Aye.
Stephen Sunbury.
Aye.
Natalie C. Goodwin.
Aye.
Ashley Selke.
Aye.
Kelly Peelman.
Aye.
And myself, Jerry Rodenbarger. Aye. Okay. Great. Thank you very much. Are you two staying put for our next one?
question.
a
We're not
little-
on the record. We're not on the record. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
In all sincerity, do you want my clients here at settlement conferences?
No,
Okay.
honestly, that's fine,
Okay.
and we're actually gonna be discussing proposed settlement agreements in our discussion as well.
Okay.
Along those lines
Okay.
of,
The reason I ask is the next one did not have a settlement conference, so Dr. Clemente isn't going to be able to offer any questions that you may have. And Kara is pinch hitting for Amy Osborne. So I'm wondering if, depending on your all's preference, do you want to kick this to the next board meeting, in which case I will move to a continuance and have my client here in July?
well, I actually reviewed this and we made that discussion, so quite frankly, I could answer questions after, when it comes to discussion point on this.
Okay.
I think we're okay
Okay.
for this one.
All right, I just wanted to make everyone comfortable.
This is an administrative hearing for Dr. Gupta. Or for a proposed settlement agreement. This is an administrative hearing being held on January 30th, 2025 at 1202 East 38th Street, Discovery Hall, Suite 100, Indianapolis, Indiana 46205, and electronically through Microsoft Teams at 11:17 a.m. local time. This hearing is being conducted pursuant to the laws of the state of Indiana found in Indiana Code 4-21.5 before 7 members of the Indiana Board of Veterinary Medicine in a cause docketed as administrative cause number 2024 VB0014. The notice of time and place of this hearing was mailed and emailed to the respondent as provided by law on November 19th, 2024. The purpose of this hearing is to consider the proposed settlement agreement as filed by the petitioner on January 22nd, 2025. My name is Jerry Rodenbarger, and I am serving as the hearing officer for this board. The following members of the board are sitting with me on this hearing: Paul Clemente, DVM, Stephen Sunbury, DVM, John Schnare, DVM, Kelly Peelman, DVM, Ashley Selke, RVT, and Natalie Goodwin, consumer member. At this time, I will request that any board member who feels that he or she cannot give this individual a fair hearing and render an impartial decision to remove himself or herself from this hearing.
I'll have to recuse on this one.
Okay.
That's why you got to review the case, because Dr. Gupta is a personal friend of mine. We occasionally play golf together. And the fact that he routinely beats me in golf might sway my decision.
And did any of the golfing have any effect on how he treated this patient?
No.
Okay. All right. At that point then, Dr. Clemente is recused. Appearance of counsel, please.
Kara Rochester for the state.
And Rory Goldman for Dr. Gupta, the respondent.
Great. I don't believe we have any witnesses. All individuals attending this meeting are hereby placed on notice that this meeting is being recorded pursuant to Indiana law and will be a matter of public record. Commentary from the state.
Once again, you have a proposed settlement agreement before you. Would you
Yes, we
like
do.
a summary?
I
Okay.
just wanted to make sure.
Then the state just requests that the board accept the agreement. Thank you.
And Rory, would you be willing again to give us a very,
That's what she was asking you.
what's that?
Kara was asking you if you wanted her to.
Oh, well, I wanted Rory to do it.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, all right.
I mean, she's representing the respondent.
Okay, this case involves the treatment of a cat admitted on April 15, 2021, treated for urinary blockage. An unblocking procedure was performed using an open-ended Tomcat catheter. Then there was an IV and fluids administered, hospitalization ensued until April 18th. There is an issue about whether input and output was monitored. If the respondent agreed he did not document monitoring. The patient was released on April 18th. After an x-ray was done, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Patient was discharged on April 18th, but later that evening, patient returned with a complaint of open mouth breathing and respiratory difficulty. That's when the x-ray was performed, showing fluid in the cavity. A diuretic was administered. Cat is admitted for observation and treatment. On the 19th, there is some observations about straining to urinate with no urine in the box. Bladder is large and firm. Cat could void if the bladder was manually expressed. Bethanechol, I'm not saying that right, I'm positive, 2.5 milligrams was ordered every 12 hours. A repeat thoracic x-ray was done, showing an improvement from the day prior. The next day, April 20th, the cat was breathing, eating, urinating on its own, but not a bowel movement, and was discharged. No lab work was done during the second day, or the second return, so the same day of the discharge. 5 days later, the owner reported that she had gone to, or that the cat was, not eating, and at that point, Mirazitaz was ordered as an appetite stimulant. And then 5 days after that, the owner called to say that another veterinary clinic had advised that the cat was in respiratory failure and had recommended to euthanize the cat, which is what was ultimately done. The parties, through their attorneys to the case, discussed this case and whether or not it would be appropriate for consideration of settlement. The parties discussed that additional CE hours would be required. And those are set forth, sorry, I'm sitting here looking at the wrong copy the whole time. My apologies. 6 hours of continuing education are set forth on page 4, on how to manage, or getting to managing the critically ill blocked cat, urethral obstruction, approach to acute and chronic kidney disorders. One thing that I failed to mention was, and it's set forth in the settlement agreement, is that the subsequent veterinarian did not apparently do any testing to come up with the diagnosis of end-stage kidney failure. So that is in the record and a recommendation for euthanasia, but there isn't anything to evaluate how that diagnosis was reached. So the parties are here asking for approval to approve the settlement based upon a letter of reprimand. I think that's it.
Thank you very much. Wonderfully summarized. But I'm sure that you could have done just as well.
Or better.
These proceedings, according to notice, are hereby concluded. This cause is therefore adjourned until further notice. Thank you very much. Okay, certainly a matter of not getting adequate supportive laboratory data, monitoring input, output, some pretty standard, straightforward, necessary things that need to be done in a case like this. And so CE in the area of better record keeping, feline internal medicine, fluid administration and monitoring, totaling 6 hours, seem to be appropriate, plus a letter of reprimand. And that was the decision as far as the settlement is concerned.
Was the cat plugged prior to the opening catheter?
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't know that there was any indication of how long that had been, and so potentially, I mean, this kitty cat may have had VU, well, I think it said greater than 130 or something like that, so a high level of permanent damage probably to those kidneys beforehand, so we were destined to go down this road to a degree, I would say, and so even though these things weren't done properly, I would bet that Dr. Gupta would not have been able to save this cat in the long run regardless. And so need to get some CE there, and things weren't handled quite right, and communication with the client straight up as to what we were up against would have changed the tenor of this a lot, I would say.
A general comment, not on this case, but I find it interesting, a lot of these that come before us like this, I feel like what was done is probably more typical of what was done 20 years ago, 25 years ago. That would have been probably considered fairly standard of care back then. Times have changed, and sometimes what protocols don't catch up with some of these, but it seems like personally, I find that with a lot of these that there wasn't, if this was in a different era, there wasn't a blatant issue. And I say this because I find this to be the proper thing to do in this case.
Well, Dr. Sunbury, you're in a new era, so you need to upgrade your treatments, buddy.
Didn't say I was not.
Regardless. Any other comments about this? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to accept this proposed settlement agreement.
Can I make a comment and still not vote?
Sure.
Sunil goes to every local meeting, so he keeps up with continuing education. Our Northeast Indiana Association is still really active. We meet every month. He's at every meeting. I'm there so that I can keep up with standard of care so I can review these cases. But yes, 1985, this was standard.
Thank you, Paul. Other comments? Still looking to entertain a motion. Well, I move that we accept this settlement agreement.
I will second that.
Great. Let's have a roll call. I think I'd have you all memorized. Paul Clemente.
Abstain.
Oh, that's correct. Sorry. John Schneer.
Aye.
Stephen Sunbury.
Aye.
Natalie C. Goodwin.
Aye.
Ashley Selke.
Aye.
Kelly Peelman.
Aye.
And myself, Jerry Rodenbarger. Aye. All righty.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Margie.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Actually, Steve, I think even in the 90s, we were still doing it. Somewhere in the 90s, cats came from knives to special.
Thank you, y'all.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Hooked up to IV bags. The catheters hooked up to an IV bag so you can monitor urine outflow. And I would take those off because they would kink the catheter, plug up. It was insane. So we would monitor by just saying urine output plus. And that's what we did. Because those urinary catheters hooked up to those IV bags were not fun to manage.
How long was this one plugged?
I don't think anybody knows.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
you know.
didn't indicate how long before coming in the cat was not able to blend. What?
I'm sure if Neil had to do it over again, he would have rechecked the VUN and creatinine before he sent it home.
Certainly.
How he dropped the ball, I
Rockaway
have no idea
Clinic's
on that.
$1,500 a year just for
That was
wellness.
follow-up monitoring was
He didn't do.
more
Forget about
than
that.
Every time
veterinary
that
input out.
probably every.
When the cat couldn't handle the fluids, that should have been a clue,
I
okay,
think
we
you
got,
get further out.
should have rerun the kidney.
We're going for what you got.
Yes.
But I didn't talk to him about this, I pretended I never had it, and that's why I sent the case to you.
No, that's okay. I mean, but this was sadly a dead cat walking. I mean, probably in all likelihood, so. But regardless. We are out of administrative hearings and into personal appearances. Darren, you still over there?
Yep.
Come on up.
Okay.
Dr. Miller, DDM. Sit down and talk to us.
Okay. My employment situation is still the same. I did have a positive alcohol test November 24th, I believe. It was breathalyzer on Sunday morning. The highest the breathalyzer got up to is 0.02. And I thought it was a mistake originally because I'd had that happen previously. But when we did the urine test, it was positive for alcohol. The only thing I could come back and think of what might have happened, it wasn't intentional drinking. I know it sounds kind of, it's a story, you hear a lot of stories, but a friend of mine had got me a growler of cider. I thought it was regular apple cider, and I'm assuming that I never had it tested or anything like that, but I'm assuming it had some alcohol in it. I drank it that Saturday night. I had a big glass of it before bed, and then I was drinking it that morning before church, and that's probably why the alcohol test came back. That's when I flew positive.
Real quick, to make sure that I understand the situation. SoberLink is hooked up to your car? Is that
No,
the
it's
thing, or is that?
No, it's a separate device. I carry it around with me all the time. I blow into
Okay.
it 4 times a day. It
All right.
connects to my phone.
A couple of us were questioning what that was, and
Yeah.
so it's a blow device, is
Yes,
that right?
I've got it in my pocket right here.
Oh, demo.
So yeah, it's this, and you get a straw. And essentially, there's an app on my phone, and that initiates the breathalyzer.
Okay, because we want to know what you test right now.
Okay. I can do that. I'll do it.
I am teasing you.
Because we're not under
Yeah,
obligation.
Sure, you might advise otherwise.
That's good for you guys to.
No, seriously,
Previous case.
because I didn't know what it was.
After what happened several hours ago.
Can't be
And it takes a few seconds to.
You could have blamed that on communion if you went to church.
Yeah, I could, I guess. Except we use grape juice at our church. 000. So that's how it works.
Great.
And I had a false positive on this before when I went in and tested that day, and it was negative on urine. So basically the protocol is if I test positive on this multiple times, then I go in and do like a self-test, urine test. I go to a facility or basically a laboratory collection facility and do a urine test. And if that comes back negative, everything's good. This time it came back positive. So it determined that I ingested alcohol.
Well, I would say for everybody that I think we're all going, okay, how could you not know that you had some alcohol when you were going, hey, I didn't have anything, when you kept testing positive with this? I appreciate the explanation.
Yeah. So I mean, to be honest with you, when I was drinking, I wasn't drinking beer or apple cider. It was something much stronger. So I didn't intend to be drinking. And like I said, my blood alcohol content on the device was only got up to 0.02, which is, 0.08 is the legal limit. But as part of that, Ann Kelly had me go for an evaluation at Pavilion. I chose Pavilion. She gave me 3 options. Pavilion down in North Carolina, they specialize in health professional care for addiction issues. It was a 4-day evaluation. They did cognitive tests, blood tests, or blood test, urine test, hair test, testing for any kind of basically medications. From what I was told, I didn't see the results, but from what I was told, all my alcohol tests came back negative, which some of those tests go back months. So that was all good. And then they do interviews, or you provide them a list of people to contact. So like my sponsor was contacted, my therapist, where I did my inpatient and intensive outpatient programs. So they contacted all of them. And then at the end of the 4 days, so basically I stayed in their inpatient rehab facility for those 4 days. And then at the end of that, they have the final summary, which Ann Kelly was a part of. And the determination from them was that, all my alcohol tests came back negative, so that confirmed probably wasn't, to them, it was an unintentional use. And that, but they did recommend a 3-week inpatient relapse prevention treatment, which they originally required it within like 30 days of the meeting. I talked with Ann Kelly and them. We got that pushed back to 60 days because as long as I'm still using the sober link and everything like that to confirm I'm not drinking, because one of the doctors, one of the owners, he's out on, he's had knee replacement surgery, so he's out with that, and his wife's the other owner in the business, and she's his primary caretaker. So I've been covering for that. So I scheduled the date and forwarded that to Ann Kelly. I'll be going for the 3-week relapse prevention treatment in March 10th.
And you're going back to North Carolina?
Yeah.
So this Pavilion evaluation, was that just recently, a few weeks ago?
No, January 6th.
Okay.
Yeah, is when it started.
So,
Yeah.
three weeks ago.
Yeah.
And that was only 4 days, right? Is that
4
what you
days.
said?
Yep.
And you're there now in March for 3 full weeks?
3 full
You'll be
weeks.
there?
Yep.
Okay.
Do you have any kind of report from Pavilion?
Ann Kelly should have the report. I thought she would have submitted it.
I haven't gotten anything yet.
Okay. Because it was like right on the brink of when she was supposed to file her report on me to you guys. Because they were going to try to get me in the 28th, but then I got it moved up to the 6th.
The last thing I have from her is dated December 31st, and it says that you would be going on January 6th to that assessment. So she might not have the actual paperwork back yet from them or recommendations.
Yeah, I think we talked when we talked, because we were talking about whether I should get into 30 days or 60 days. She has the final recommendations, she just may not have sent them over yet.
So even though they gave you seems to be a fairly glowing report after the 4 days.
Yeah.
They still, it sounds, consider your recovery very fragile. And so is that why this 3-week process?
No, well,
something they normally do?
Yeah, so my take from being down there, it was repeated several times by the guy who runs it. He says, and he said it to the whole group, so I feel I can say it here. He said, if Darren wasn't a doctor, he wouldn't even be here. like what he has done recovery-wise would be adequate for any other, for the general public. But because I'm a healthcare professional and held to a higher standard, their average, for somebody that's just coming straight in with an alcohol problem or a drug addiction problem is like a 10 to 12 week program. And I only did 28 days in Anna Branch. I did do my IOP through Anna Branch, which was 6 weeks. I still go to those meetings. They let me, well, it's virtual, but so they commended me a lot on what I've done so far. They just believe, especially since this is my second DUI, that relapse prevention treatment would be beneficial to me. And I agree with them. I think it would be good. It's been a year since I went into recovery or went into the inpatient. And one thing I've been kind of lacking in my recovery is a peer group as far as alumni type thing. There's not very many health professionals in my current. So there's
Which is at the church?
The church and my IOP. I still get on there 3 times a week. So acts going down there, and I mean, it's an expense, but my family's supportive of everything. So I think it'll be beneficial. And that's kind of where they were at on it too. But essentially, it came down to the fact that since I'm a healthcare professional, I'm held to a higher standard, and this was my second attempt at treatment.
Sure.
And the last one didn't take. So
Now, very briefly, did they give you an outline of this 3-week process?
No,
What kind of things you're going to be doing?
They didn't give me an exact outline of what I'll be doing. It's a pretty well-staffed, people come from all over the country to go there, medical professionals. So relapse prevention classes or courses, meditation techniques, those kind of things, I think are what they're going to be. I guess more tools and in a more intense environment to kind of get me, provide that relapse prevention.
Sounds like a good opportunity.
It is. I mean, it's definitely a strain on the finances a little bit, but my family's supportive, so we're going to get it done.
Other questions or comments for Darren?
Help me again with what you're doing practice-wise.
I'm working with Sullivan County Animal Hospital. Dr. Ben and Monica Poline own that clinic. I work there, currently working there 3/4 time mostly, because like I said, Dr. Ben is out with knee replacement surgery. And then I work for my parents, our family business, doing contract research on mostly dogs and cats. We've got 128 beagles, and now we just added 60 cats. We've got about 50 cats that we do.
How far is your commute to your practice?
The commute to the practice is about 15 minutes. I'm still not, that was the other thing I was going to advise the board. I'm still not able to drive, so I get rides back and forth. I'm only 10 minutes away from my family farm, and so a lot of the transportation's done that direction as far as driving. But yeah, the practice is about 15 minutes from my house. And as far as my legal situation, an agreement has just recently been reached that's going to kind of settle everything.
So your license is suspended right now?
Yes, it's still suspended. It'll be suspended for another 180 days. Yeah. But nothing's been signed, so I can't really go into too much detail on it.
I was just going to make an observation that when I hear apple cider, I think fall, or winter, I think warm it up in spices, and here, kids, you can have some too.
Yeah.
When I hear growler, I tend to think alcohol.
Yeah.
And I've heard stories of people with the SoberLink thing say that, certain mouthwashes can contain alcohol and set it off, and you've got to be very, very careful. So just keep things like that in mind.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
sounds like, as you're making your decisions.
Yeah, I definitely got complacent with it. It was like 2 days before my birthday, and it was a friend that gave it to me, and I didn't really think about it. I should have questioned it better, being the holidays. And definitely through the rest of Thanksgiving and Christmas, I was very careful. So, but yeah.
I think you're doing the whole program right. I mean, you've been here all morning, you know, talking about.
Yeah.
But seriously, even if you go to an inpatient treatment facility, it's not gonna be, you know, 24 hours and you go home. You're doing it right, you know.
Yeah.
2 to 3 weeks and all of that mental stimulus to how to deal with it is part of the treatment. I think you're doing it right, so congratulations.
Yeah, my sponsor's reaction when I told him wasn't even hesitation, he goes, do it. So, that's gonna happen.
What part of North Carolina?
It's the southern part, kind of still up in the mountains. It's not really real close, near Asheville. It's about 40 minutes southwest of Asheville, or southeast of Asheville.
You can get there now?
Yeah.
We're
Yep.
Googling it here. It looks beautiful.
Yeah.
It's like a resort.
Yeah.
So there you go.
It's definitely nicer than my first inpatient. So I told Dan Kelly I wish I would have known about this place when we were looking for an inpatient, so.
Okay.
This is good.
Anything else for Dr. Miller from the board? Okay, okay with you if we get together at our April meeting? Because I, for one, would like to hear about this experience and how you're doing.
Yep.
And then maybe we can extend to 6 months at that point if everything's going great.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Is that all right with you?
Yep.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, no problem. You guys have a good rest of your day.
You as well. All right. Under renewals, and we have Aaron Warenberg, DBM.
Yes, sir.
Come on up, sir. Or down.
Yes, sir.
How's your day?
Pretty good.
Great. I understand you're an Army veteran, is that
Yes.
correct? Thank you for your service. Why don't you, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself and how things are going now and all that kind of thing. And I understand there's been quite a span since you last had an active license, is that right? Fill us in on that time frame.
Basically, I got diagnosed with an L5S1 disc, so I've been dealing with that. So I'm wanting to get my license for the console. So with a company called Fetch. So.
Okay, it's on TV. Right,
Yeah,
you know.
I thought that sounded familiar.
I've got
seen
an
little something
iPad, so I
about
can do virtual where I can see the patient, see the owner. And then they've got, I do soaps on them. And then those are also reviewed by their doctors, and that's part of my requirement to review. And then things go out to the owners. They can fulfill those. If I feel that a veterinary needs to get hands-on, then there's places near them that they can be referred to.
Interesting. How about some more background of your last 5 years? And I'd be interested in your service and what, was the disc arm related to when you were
No.
in service?
It's just too much rugby and old age and Army, pretty much.
I was gonna say, for the right, I don't feel quite so sorry for you, because I, had joint replacements, and they were all because I played too much sports.
Yeah.
So,
So after West Point, I served and I was injured, ended up in the hospital in a coma for a month. I had a titanium rod put in my leg. Unfortunately, I threw a clot right after surgery. Stopped breathing. MRSA had just come out and I luckily got it. So I was under for a month on vancomycin, eventually got out of the hospital. Got an honorable discharge, medical discharge. Was kind of thinking of what I wanted to do with my life, and I rescued a little kitten, and I thought, hey, I could do this. And so I decided I want to be a vet, so I worked for a veterinarian for a while, got into Oklahoma State. After that, about halfway through, I decided I want to be a surgeon. And so I got a surgical internship up here in Fishers, did that, it went well, and they hired me on as a residency. Finished that, took my boards, passed that, and then stayed on as a surgeon for a while there. And that's pretty much it as far as now the only thing I do is if friends and family call me to ask questions. So that's why I like to do this virtual thing where I can spread the knowledge that I've learned out to people virtually.
From a time frame, specific dates, when did you last work as a surgeon?
Oh goodness, probably like 2017 as far as,
Okay.
Yeah.
All righty.
Did you say you went to West Point?
Yes, sir.
So you were licensed in Indiana for a while,
Yes, sir. Yep.
and that expired 5 years ago?
Right.
But you have no plans to go back to surgery or hands-on at this point?
Probably not, no. Unless,
Most of that is the pain issue and
Right.
not being, can't they surgically fix your back?
well, actually, I did my residency paper was putting morphine directly on the spinal cord for little disc dogs that we had to do. And I've had the neurosurgeons at the VA, they say right now they don't feel it's operable since I'm movable. And as long as if I can adjust myself, I can control the pain. And they've also given me lidocaine patches that I can put on my lower back, so that helps.
But you have a disc impinging upon your spinal cord?
Yes, that's what the MRI said. L5S1. So
And
I'm on
they
gap.
can't remove that disc?
They said that's inoperable this time.
Okay.
The VA told you that?
Yes, yeah, the VA. I would like to get a second opinion.
That's what I was thinking.
'Cause
I'll give you a second one.
So you started to say you're on GABA?
I'm on gabapentin, lidocaine patches is what I use, and then also I can take Tylenol as needed. So, and then I've got the VA's assigned home health care nurse that comes Monday through Friday and takes care of me. So,
Anytime you treat the effect and not the cause,
right.
that becomes a challenge, I would think.
Right.
So
I would definitely.
My best friend, her
The
husband.
VA will send you out to a good surgery center.
Right. I've requested that, and also my best friend, her husband's a neurosurgeon down in Florida, and he's requested to look at the MRI to see if it's, if there's anything else. It's manageable, but I'm getting tired of managing, to be honest with you.
well, we don't usually venture into human medicine, but we're making an exception today, so. Okay. Other questions for Doctor?
So what happens, Brittany, on the 5-year deal? Does that put us in an awkward position?
No, the statute changed to after being expired for 3 years, it's just discretionary for
Okay,
the board.
because at one time, there was a time limit on this. if I
Yep, and
remember.
that changed in July 1st of 2024. And I didn't put this in SharePoint just because it was a lot of information, but he did do many, many hours of continuing education.
That was my next question.
Mine-
You hadn't
mine
happened to
as
do
well.
anything.
I just didn't want you guys to have to go in and start counting them.
What did you say, many hours?
Yeah.
CE, he's done a lot of CE.
Do you recall how many hours?
82.
80, yeah, I thought it was.
I kept
You
track.
with history as a specialist, I would write CE for other doctors and they would, I got no credit for writing all those. I was like, I should get some credit for putting this together.
Yeah, we're not giving you any credit for it.
Can you remind me how many hours is it
40.
per 40? Pretty darn.
Unless you just want to be an RVT, then it's only 20.
Okay.
So Fetch pays you by the case, kind of?
Yes.
Is that how
It's
that
not
works?
fetch. He's Dutch.
Oh, Dutch.
Oh, you're Dutch. Okay, so that's what I was gonna ask, because I thought you said fetch and I.
Yeah.
We were talking about something
Yeah.
similar.
Okay,
just before we
because
left.
that's what we were gonna discuss later.
I know.
Which, Dutch or fetch?
Because Dutch is relatively new.
Yes, from my understanding.
Well, I like, yeah, we're gonna discuss it later because I brought it up, but I like what you said, how you do things. It's more information than what's on their website.
Right.
So,
Do you get to negotiate your percentage with them, or is that
I don't
flat?
think so. The lady that interviewed me said this is how we run things as far as once you do it for a week, you kind of see how comfortable you feel, how many cases you can do per day, what days you want to do it, what times you want to do it. Because one of the things they want to be able to offer is like after 6 o'clock, like from 6 to midnight, when most dental practices are closed, so that they have some options, so they don't have to go immediately to the emergency clinic, just some basic questions that they have.
24/7 is what they're trying.
Yeah, they're trying to be 24/7.
address.
how many states is Dutch in?
That's a good question. All I know is I wanted to be Indiana.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not sure.
Well, I'm assuming by their television advertising recently, it's gotta be pretty widespread.
What did you just say? You want to be Indiana, or you
I
wanted
wanted
to be in?
I just want to focus on Indiana as far as the cases I see.
Okay. And do they give you the whole state, or, I mean, anybody
I
that
think
calls
so.
in from
I think
Indiana,
just
it
from
funnels to
Indiana.
you? Is
I
that the
think
idea?
so, yeah.
I mean,
They're not gonna give me anyone for like Illinois because I'm not licensed there.
Good point.
so are they fairly busy then?
I think so. I think they're
I'm
kind of,
reading, I'm asking all these questions because we're gonna discuss this later on.
right. I think they're starting to get busy. That's why they're reaching out.
Are there any other questions you all need to consider the license renewal?
Well, no, we just want to know about Dutch.
You're gonna have to face it later anyway.
I know, but he doesn't.
He doesn't.
Well, I know, we
No,
may
but
ask him to stay and lead that discussion, so.
He's a great source of information.
I seriously.
All we got,
Can't hold him hostage.
all we got to go on is
He
the
can't leave
television.
until we rule on this, so we could shift it in the agenda. All right, anything else? I would entertain a motion to grant licensure.
Absolutely.
So moved.
You have a question first?
In general, if we continue with this motion and if it passes, I just want to be reminded as far as CE, for my sake and for his sake to know, with the renewal coming up in 2025, where will that put him as far as getting the CE he needs versus what he's already done versus that was prior to?
I would assume that all just granted him grace to be able to get his
Yeah, I'm
license, and
not-
he'll need to
That's
use
a
it
good,
for-
that's a good
Just
question.
curious before we.
That's a good question, and I've not
Is it prorated?
seen that. But since it's so if he were a new licensee, he wouldn't be required to do any.
Annie.
But as a renewal, he might be.
Make
But
sure you
he
look into that.
just did 80 hours of continuing education, so that might be
Well, but
considered a waiver on an
Some would
audit.
say that covers the last 5 years.
That's
Others,
kind of why I asked, is that
others would say.
to catch up to get us to now?
Well,
But this is also discretionary, that he did it preemptively too and not required by the board.
I did 111 one year and they didn't give me extra.
But it would potentially 80 hours, you need 40 every 2 years, that's gonna take care of this renewal plus the one before that, I would think.
If it was all in the last year and a half or whatever, but
Most of the C's relatively recent.
Oh, yeah.
just something worth
So I,
checking into as time comes up.
because I don't,
Because I don't officially know that answer. either.
Okay.
Steve, I don't remember, do you remember us having somebody have to come up with like 100 hours, you know, huge hours to go back, to go retroactive? I don't ever
Maybe
remember
back
that.
in the day when we had the 5-year,
When we had the 3-year.
3-year
limit.
limit, yeah, that was,
Has it all, if you guys want.
She's had a license for the last 5 years.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
40
Because I would say the same thing about RBT.
To that though, he hadn't been practicing those years. There's no, I feel like everything has been honorable and above the table. I think we should just progress with the motion to reinstate his.
Absolutely. I was just giving a sidebar.
Devil's advocate.
Yeah, this has nothing to do with whether we're gonna grant
Yes, correct.
licensure. This was just,
More for his
where
good
does he
and our good
stand
so
as
that we
far
know
as
that
the
we can look
CE
into
is
this.
concerned?
Because we'll need to know that answer.
We just
In October.
unilaterally decided you're okay with it.
Yeah, 'cause I would recommend that for RBTs if they hadn't practiced in so long, because that doesn't make it fair to the people who have kept up with CE and on that. I would
Okay.
say they had to go back to and get as many equal as to what they are today.
I think we still maybe have a motion on the floor from Dr. Schnarr.
Second.
And a second. Thank you. Let's have a roll call. Dr. Clemente.
Aye.
Dr. Schnarr.
I,
Stephen Sunbury.
Aye.
Natalie C. Goodwin.
Aye.
Ashley Selke.
Aye.
Kelly Peelman.
Aye.
And myself, Jerry Rodenberger. Aye. You're good.
Thanks, sir. Thank you.
Get that second opinion.
Yes, sir.
And we need to take a break. All right, let's reconvene. We are in the midst of personal appearances and we are at exam retakes. So, Sandra,
That's me.
hi.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Oh, so you guys to pass around, front and back, okay?
Does she know we lose handouts?
Well, they're
She said-
laminated.
I made them
they
short
them
for
back.
you, so, and they are front and back if you just want to look at it, but, okay,
Anyway, welcome.
thank you.
I think in my notes, are those test scores?
I actually just sent her the
Just
test
so,
scores
because we don't
again.
have any on her, right?
No, we do not.
Okay.
And so I haven't seen any.
She literally just sent them, so.
I sent them before, but I
I
don't know if
didn't-
they didn't go through or what, so I just sent them again.
Okay,
Give me a
Well,
minute to get them.
that's okay. While we're passing everything around
Okay.
and she's doing what she does,
Okay,
why don't you give us a little bit of background?
Um,
For example, where you live, what you do, where your schooling was, stuff like that.
okay. Well, right now I live in the Eagle Creek area, 38th Street, so I pretty much just took a straight shot down here. I went to school at International Business College, graduated in 2019, right before COVID, with the associate in veterinary technology. Ever since then, I've been in practice. I started at Banfield, just getting like the core down there. And then I moved to Vet Check Urgent Care, which is a little more, they did like the urgent care side. It wasn't emergency and it wasn't general. It was just in between urgent care. So things like that. And then after that, and I've been here for almost 2 years now, I work at the pet clinic of Brownsburg. We specialize in small animals, general practice, and then we also take emergency cases. And that's what I'm doing right now.
Throughout the day? meaning-
Correct, yes. If they walk in and it's an emergency, we'll do it. Pretty much. My doctor doesn't like to turn people away. So we'll do it.
What doctor does?
Not
Are they
mine.
up there?
but-
Are they in the museum?
I didn't redo it, sorry.
Okay. Excellent. Since I don't have that in front of me yet.
who's the doctor at Browns?
Joseph Woodruff.
Joe who?
Joseph Woodruff. Woodruff.
That's good, he's a good guy.
Yeah, I really like him.
Been 15 years since I've seen him.
Are you guys able to see?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, because mine wouldn't load. I can print some off though if.
There's a
mine's
trend line upwards if anybody needs to know.
Okay,
Well,
that's good to know.
Thank you.
If anyone can just go ahead and rattle off our 3 test scores, that would probably be adequate.
Yeah, I've got them. April 2024, a 321. I believe the next one was a 366 that happened in the summertime, August. And most recently, December, 392.
So we went up each time.
Yep. That's right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Numbers are really small.
They are small.
That is correct.
Let's
My
talk
eyes still
about
work not that well.
help, study,
Mm-hmm.
other people that are quizzing you, testing you,
Mhm.
taking practice tests, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, recently, I actually found a crash course on Facebook called Beth Ann's Crash Course. And I signed up for that. And so she does tutoring as well on Sundays. Here lately, she hasn't been able to do it as much because of personal reasons, she said. But she does do tutoring on Sundays on different subjects. And each week there's a different subject to work on. I also went and I picked up the McCurran's veterinary textbook and workbook. So I've been using that and reading. I've almost read the entire textbook. And I'm using the workbook with it. I have a friend that's currently in school that we quiz each other that I work with. So that's another thing. I attempted vet tech prep, but I didn't really see a difference with it. I feel like I was more memorizing the questions and answers than I was the material. So when I switched over to doing the workbook and then the Quizlets and looking at all my old school stuff and talking to Ashley, who's in school right now, that's when my score went up. So my biggest difference for this one is doing that online class that Beth Ann is offering. That's my biggest thing.
And you're working with someone who's
Currently in school.
in tech school?
Yes.
And are there other registered veterinary technicians?
No, I am actually the only one except for her who has been to school.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of them worked their way up.
Because sadly, that is helpful, I think, for folks.
I think it is, yeah. So, yeah, it's a little harder because I don't have anybody really else to go to at school. I mean, not school, at work. But I've found a way to make it work. You know, I'm trying to at least.
Sure.
Another thing is I waited too long after school to take my test, which was a problem. So I shouldn't have done that, but things happen. I had a kid, so.
Oh, kids.
Yep.
Understand
Yep.
that. Ashley, questions, comments for her?
Yeah, so,
Ashley's our registered veterinary
Yeah.
technician on the board.
yeah. So I know Beth Ann, who she's talking about. She's a great resource and she does a lot of BTDs. She's out of Illinois and works with the board, the VMA of Illinois. And so she's really good. And I just want to point out, I see on here that it says veterinary nurse
That's where I was
next to
going.
things. So we don't want to say that. That could
Okay.
be construed as you, because NAFTA's official stance is that veterinary nurse is likened to the same thing as a credentialed veterinary technician.
Okay,
So that could be construed
Okay.
as, you know, you're stating that you are one.
yeah,
So I just want you to be mindful of those,
okay.
because then you're gonna have to come see us again.
I get confused with that because like the doctors I've always worked with, they always just say nurse.
That's because
They
they
always
can't say other things. So
So,
it's a layman's term of trying to get around it.
ah,
There's people who, we talk with the ABMA and things like that and work with NAFTA. And that's just one thing that we're trying to get is likened to the same term as a credentialed veterinary technician and not a layperson's term. And
okay,
it just muddies the waters for all kinds of other things. So just be mindful of that. And
I could definitely change it.
And tell your employer
yes.
the same.
just the same.
Veterinary assistant.
Okay,
Specifically for websites or anything public facing.
okay, okay,
Yes.
thank you.
And, yeah,
Not
because that can be
produced
construed as
graduates now,
misleading
all
the
called
public.
Veterinary nurses.
Okay,
Yeah, so like the general public.
I understand that.
Yeah. So, but yes, I think you're doing all the right
things. McKernan's, we call it the Vet Tech Bible.
Mhm.
McKernan's textbook is very good. And that's what I used. I was a 4-time test taker, and that's what I finally used. Mine was the lab procedures that always got me.
Mm.
And I was also like you, like there wasn't any other RBTs
Yeah.
at the time.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to use your own wheels to scoot across there.
Mhm.
But I think you're doing the right things and what you previously done, and the current is in your current too.
Mhm.
And I think he's coming out with a new book. He's the greatest guy.
Is he really?
He's super, he's like, so cute.
While you have the floor, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I would make a motion that we approve this attempt for.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Excellent.
And nobody's
let's-
ever given us these.
What's that?
Nobody's ever given us these. I think it's great.
Let's call the question. Paul Clemente,
Aye.
John Schneer,
Aye.
Stephen Sunbury,
Aye.
Natalie,
Aye.
Ashley Selke,
Aye.
Kelly Peelman,
Aye.
and myself, Jerry Rodenbarger. Aye. Go get them.
So
Do
good-
it.
good luck.
Cassandra, just one other thing.
Yes.
We were kind of looking through, the print was small.
Mhm.
It looked like anesthesia was biting you.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So you might want to look at the scores within the score,
Mhm.
because that anesthesia one looks like it grabbed you all 3 times.
Okay.
So on this next try, you might want to, on your study.
Focus more on
a little
that.
more.
Yeah. That's what I did. I looked at which procedures I was lacking in or
Mhm.
which test domains. And then I read that like all through the McKernans. I just went through and it was like a Thanksgiving. I just went through and
Yeah.
all my family was off enjoying food.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll send an approval letter out
Thank you.
probably next week.
Okay.
Do you need to-
Oh, no.
Okay, there's a testing window.
Thank
for
you.
that, right? Okay, yeah.
Peyton?
Thank
Do we have Peyton here?
Yes, hi.
Hi, would you give me a pronunciation of your last name?
It's Barrage.
Exactly what I was going to
I
say.
bet, I bet. It's okay, no one I don't think's ever gotten it right.
It's awesome. It's just you have a lot of vowels.
Oh, I know, lots of letters in there.
So the D is silent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Barrage,
Kinda.
yeah, Barrage.
It's kind of silent.
My maiden name was Bursaw. Like,
Really?
it was very hard, so I get it. It spelled nothing like it sounds.
Awesome. Okay, you were probably listening a little bit through the last one, but why don't you start with some introductions and things you're doing, where you're working, that kind of thing?
So I attended Fox College in Tinley Park and got my associate's veterinary technology there. I graduated in December 2023. And then out of that, I got an externship at Purdue's Large Animal Hospital, and I ended up getting hired out of it as a treatment technician. So I worked there from January of 2024 to December of 2024 as a large animal treatment technician. I would do overnights. During the days, I would do my rounds on all the patients, administer medications, let the doctor know if something's going on. I would help intake a lot of emergencies overnight, and then also help teach the students there, or like give them advice and stuff, help them with, mundane procedures that I am able to do.
A quick question.
Yeah.
At this point, is a large, what you call large animal, is that separated out from equine?
No, it was, I thought when I was going there, it was gonna be like specifically equine actually, cause they had told me like the equine practice and stuff like that, but I actually went between equine and farm animal, and that was just their whole large animal, but they do have 2 separate hospitals.
Right, that's why I asked.
Yeah, so they keep them separated, but my job was with all of them. There was never anything like just specifically do horses or anything. Everyone's kind of gotta do all the things. So I was all over the place, which I do like. I learned a lot.
But you did get to
Yeah.
see some horses as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, so I really like the equine aspect of it. That's where I want to like end up working. But I did learn so much working there and with all the other species too. And I did fall in love with a lot of them and the work with it. So I think it worked out great anyways. But I did end up leaving there in December I think with the hours and the responsibility on my back, I wasn't able to put as much time as I wanted to into studying for my VTNE. And I think that really showed with my scores. I ended up leaving a little bit before I took my last test, and that was the best I've ever done on it. And I really got to, sit back, take some days and like spend all day doing practice tests, studying, which I wasn't really able to do. And then I just got hired at Arborview Animal Hospital in Valparaiso, Indiana, up north, and I started there on Monday. And that's all small animals, avian, rodents, reptiles. So it's a big change for me. So I'm starting as an assistant for right now because I want to be able to be comfortable and confident with what I'm doing. And there's a lot of stuff that I have to relearn just since I've been with large animal for so long, last year and 4 months. But yes, I start that on Monday.
So is Northwest Indiana new to you?
That's my hometown. That's where I'm from. That's why I went to school up in Tinley Park. It was only 45 minutes away. And then I moved to Lafayette when I got hired out of my externship. And I was just living with friends while I did the externship. And then when they offered me the full-time job, then I got my own place down there. So I moved for the first time and then trying to study for the test. That was my first full-time job too. First clinic experience also outside of school. So there was a lot of change.
That's a lot of change.
Yes.
So the name of the college is what?
Fox College, it's the Vet Tech Institute
Fox.
in Tinley Park.
Where's Tinley Park?
It's in Illinois. I'm not very familiar with Illinois, but I know where that is.
So did they use the Vet Tech Institute curriculum? Is that what they called it? Vet
Yeah.
Tech Institute?
Yes.
Because that's who the program that IVC here in Indianapolis uses,
Oh, really?
is Vet Tech Institute.
Yeah, that's what they called it there, so I'm
We
assuming
had
it's
one
the
at
same.
Fort Wayne too.
Okay.
It's not there anymore.
And just for your information, the Northwest Indiana people don't consider Illinois people part of the region.
Oh, I know.
I'm afraid to go to the region.
Well,
It's great.
come visit
That's where I'm
anytime,
from.
Paul.
You gotta be tough to live in the region.
I'm from Valparaiso.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the Arborview Animal Hospital?
Never. Yeah, there.
Oh.
We, 25 years ago, whenever it was before there were any emergency clinics,
Uh-huh.
we shared emergency call with our.
Oh, nice.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, pretty familiar.
Yeah, I'm really excited to work there. They seem like a great team.
Oh, yeah.
The manager worked at Purdue at the Therio for 10 years and then went to small animals, so she understands what I'm coming from, even though it wasn't nearly as long.
Pretty new facility.
Yeah.
And so, very nice.
Mhm.
Well, good. Other questions for her?
So came awful close this last time.
Oh, yeah. That was
Painful.
very painful.
And
How
then,
long did you leave Purdue before that last one?
Probably, I think 5 or 6 days, and
Okay.
I really
That's a
drilled
pretty
in
big,
on it.
no, well, I'm saying, that's impressive.
Like
Just
I was
having a few
cooking dinner,
days.
studying at the same time.
I
I had a study room, in my apartment complex. I was in there for hours and just, I never would usually do the practice tests, like the 170 question ones. And so I started doing those and I think those really helped me too.
I think your new schedule will be
Yeah.
conducive to
I'm only
studying.
doing part-time right now
Okay.
too, because I moved back in with my parents, so I have to worry about paying for rent and stuff like that and all the bills of full-time. So I think I've taken a step back with work, but also I think my education and actually getting the license should come first. Especially with more opportunities in the future and other jobs, so.
Kind of interesting things that you scored very low in initially, then, I was looking for, is that still your problem? And you jumped up really high there, but then other ones,
Yeah,
it's like they're just,
it's tough because with being at Purdue, I mean, I look at stuff online, but at Purdue I was very niche in what I did. Like I never did anything with lab work when I was there. Never did any radiology stuff. Never ran MRIs or anything like that. Blood work. We would do the basic.
Yeah, they have each their little.
And
Yes, they all
actually,
have their
you
little.
may know the answer to this, but the communication area, which you got 12%, I think it said, 14%, Is that fairly new to the
It's new.
testing?
Yeah,
And
it's
what
new.
all's in that? I mean,
It's really new.
71%
do you know what questions they asked in that area, what that's all about?
I forget what it was.
Because
And then I
I'd figure
never-
that one out if I were you, because that was 14%.
I got 71 this last time on that one though.
Well, you figured it out.
I didn't talk to clients much either there because I was usually overnight and I'd call in a doctor to help intake emergencies and I'd just get the animal in and then they would get the history and stuff. So my client communication, I haven't done a lot of, so that's another thing I'm like really excited to do because I know that they're very big on that at art review. And like having you do client education and like learning preventative care and everything. Because usually the doctors would just take that over and love to learn more about it.
Do you have a question?
No, I was just saying, this all sounds great. I would make a motion to allow her to take the exam for a fourth time.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. I'm not allowed to talk to you anymore.
You can continue on. I just want to give her an answer. So she's been sitting here all day waiting.
All right. Roll call. Dr. Clemente.
Aye.
Dr. Snar.
Aye.
Dr. Sunbury.
I,
Natalie.
Aye.
Ashley Selke.
Aye.
Dr. Peelman. And myself, Jerry Rodenberger. Aye. Good luck.
You guys.
That's all I'm allowed to say.
Does Kendra still, you work with
Kendra
Kendra?
just left, actually. We had a lot of turnover this past year. My treatment team started off with 5 and I just actually visited them on my way up here, or down here, and they're down to 1 treatment.
Oh, man, okay.
So they're pretty low staffed right now. So yeah, Kendra left and she's now just hanging out with her son at home and her husband went back to work.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you guys.
good luck
Thank you.
and welcome to the region.
I appreciate it. You guys have a good rest of your day.
Sure. No, absolutely. Kristen? So what do you think the odds are you're going to be allowed to do this?
I sure hope so.
Well, we'll
We save
see.
all our nose for this.
We will see.
Oh, I'm kidding.
Usually it's only two a time.
Well, I mean, I'll come back and bother you again, so.
Again, like before, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit, tell us what you've been doing and all that, and we'll see what we can maybe do to help you make it happen.
So I originally from Martinsville and Trafalgar area, so I would commute up to Vet Tech Institute. I graduated there in 2019. I started working at Buffalo Road Animal Hospital a little bit prior to going to school, or while I was in school. And then whenever I graduated, I stayed there. I ended up leaving there for a little while and went to work at Eli Lilly just as an operator, so not in the veterinary medicine field at all. And then I ended up pregnant with my girls. And then whenever they came out, they had a lot of medical issues, so I stayed home for a while and then I went back to work in the veterinary field. I took my first test out of school and I don't think that I found the best way that I study and like actually retain information. So I've definitely taken that into consideration. And then I left Brookville and started working at BCA Fisher's Advanced Veterinary Care Center. And then I took my VTE for the second time while I was there. And I got very, very close.
Yes, you did.
And then this last time, I truly think that I got in my head and I really tried to focus on client communication, and I did not do as well as I wanted to, obviously. But I definitely think having the people that I work with, we're doing study groups, and that definitely has helped. And then I also have the Bible, the McCormick's book, and it's definitely helped. So I think I'm also picking up more shifts in the art department as well as working in the surgery department during the day to get a little bit more well-rounded and a little bit more insight and try and help me pass this.
Awesome. Comments from the board?
You took a little hit on the emergency medicine
I
part
did.
in this last one.
Yes. I took a little bit of a break, and I didn't study as hard as I should, and I think that I should have either rescheduled it or taken a little bit longer to like wrap my brain around taking that hit of only missing it by a little bit, and I really should have taken some time for myself to reevaluate, take a little bit more time, study a little bit harder, and not just so much focus and get in my head. And I think that was my biggest issue.
Yeah, your emergency went from 70% down to like 20.
Yes.
But your communication went
Yes.
skyrocketed.
Yeah.
So you
Yes.
flip-flop.
Yes, yeah, I really focused on, I thought, well, I have everything else down, I'm really good. I really need to focus on this client communication, and that's where I need to really focus on all of it and not just get in my head and focus on the one thing.
Well, you got that straightened out.
Yes.
I think you're right on with the time too. You don't have to take it again the next time it's offered. Wait until you really think you're ready and then go for it.
And that also was like a big push from a lot of, which I'm very, very grateful for, but a lot of the people I work with, they're all registered and they're like, well, you've got to take it now. You've got to, you just did it. It's fresh in your head. And I was like, yes, but looking back, I should have really just taken the time for myself and. Yeah.
Well, Dr. Peelman, it sounds like you're wanting to grant her another try, so do you want to go ahead and make a motion for us?
Yes, I do move that we allow her to have a fourth try.
I'll second it.
All right, we've got a motion and a second on the floor. Let's do a roll call. Dr. Clemente?
Aye.
Dr. Schnarr?
Aye.
Dr. Sunbury?
Aye.
Natalie Goodwin?
Aye.
Ashley Selke?
Aye.
Dr. Peelman?
Aye.
And myself, Jerry Rodenbarger? Aye. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Good luck.